One here already.
Oh yeah. Hey. It's Hex Vision coming to you live. I'm on the road today, but I've got a very special guest. Someone that you guys are always requesting and you can't get enough of this. He and I had a awesome time at Matty Allen's online conference along with Gold Key and Kareem, who will hopefully join us soon. And yeah, take it away, Axis. What have you been up to? I mean, you're always busy. So
Mm,
what's eating your clock these days?
mm. Well, been busy launching a website in accessalive.com, which is just fundamentally the goal there is to create a resource for people to just, improve their lives and learn a little bit about the back ends of crypto and, kind of make it, approachable for everyday people in the real world so that they can find take their first step into the big world of crypto. I think that's like a major piece of the puzzle here is trying to bridge that gap between two worlds. So I've been working a lot on the website, and then obviously I spend many hours in my day analyzing the markets. Probably like 3 to 4 to 5, even 5 hours a day. I actually put together like slideshow chart sets that I upload to my website, but I also provide those for different groups online as well. So that's basically what I've been working on lately. It seems like, pretty small when I just speak of it like that, but there's so much that goes into it on the back end. And the things that are bouncing around in my mind right now are, where, how do we bridge that gap between those that don't know or understand where to start? And like, how can we better teach this stuff to people in a way that they comprehend it?
Yeah, we were talking in the green room how the human brain, picks up on ideas and um, information in the form of a story, usually, right? So a lot of the things people believe and are conditioned to believe are stories that society or other people have told them, right? And here you're mentioning you want to put a lot of these things on the website that you found value in and that you want to share with other people, which I commend you. That's really cool. A lot of people, when they find something good, the first thing they think is, how can I squeeze people for this information, right? So I commend you for that. But what are some of the stories or some of the philosophies or schools of thought that have really benefited you in your life?
Mm. Yeah, that's an awesome question. And I would, want to hear your answers too, of course. Um, you know, the there's like a couple like little lessons that seem little and so simple on the surface, but then when you look back at how they affect your interactions with people, it totally changes the trajectory of a conversation or it changes the outcome. And so I think like the number one thing that you need to do is have strong beliefs in something much bigger than yourself for number one. And number two is to be open to new ideas. And so that means that when you hear something in the public sphere, you need to be able to hear that and then listen to it, absorb it, and then apply it to your own belief system in a way that maybe it strikes you as wrong or right, but unless you become more aware of the outer world and what that has to say to you, you won't have like as clear of a picture of what's actually going on. So for example, it's pretty simple. Like if you listen to one channel of news, they might have the completely polar opposite view of another channel of news. Or the same thing applies to market cycles. Like imagine you're going out into the world and every single day you go to work, you're like super excited about cryptocurrency and you're trying to tell people about it. But they keep shitting on you and telling you that you're dumb or it's a bad idea or it's a bad investment. Those are the same people that are gonna be sitting there when you're at the top of a bull market and they're screaming, "You should sell, you should sell, you should sell, you should sell," because or they'll be saying, "You should be the one," like, the people that were completely against it, they'd be like, "Sell the first 2x pump." Or, like, the people that were always against it, then they'll flip, and then when everything's super high, like, "Oh, this is the real thing, it's going to a million bajillion dollars." Like, unless you're cognizant of where the masses mindset is, you'll never ultimately be on the cutting edge, and I think the key here is, like, to be on the cutting edge, you have to be open to all perspectives and understand that it's all part of a bigger whole, and it really helps if you can try to put yourself in somebody else's shoes so that you can understand the reasons why they're saying what they're saying by the way they see the world, and then you'll be able to be bigger for it. You'll be able to understand their perspective, your perspective, and where it all fits into a bigger piece. So it'll give you an edge in time to make better decisions in your own life.
Wow, that you started off with two very simple concepts, which were be open to new information and believe in something bigger than yourself. And those are two things that you could build an entire like course or religion, or you could build a civilization based on just those two principles. And then you went deep and deeper and deeper. Like there was so much there. We could turn that into like a 3-hour podcast, what you just said. So that I like that. I like that you're getting the wheels spinning in my head. I appreciate you sharing that with me. Dude, well, look at this. What up this? Look at that timing. We got a very, very special guest, Kareem the Dream, the best salesman on earth. Also the man that got me in trouble for playing Meek Mill's too loud in my house. So
Nah.
First of
never.
all, yeah, they're like, you're not allowed to play that music that loud anymore in the house. And I was like, Kareem told me this was a good song. So I learned from Kareem. I blamed it all on you, dude.
Bang, bang. You never go wrong on that. That's for sure.
Hey, let's jump in deep. Let's jump in super deep. Here's a good question. What are some of the ideas, stories, or philosophies that have really benefited your life and given you like the positive, like that made the difference in your life, Kareem?
Oof. That's a little.
I'll go first if you want to think about it, because I was thinking about it. Well,
go first real quick. Axis, shout out to you.
What's up, man? How are you doing, brother? Thanks for joining me. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thanks for the invite. Go ahead,
I would say that I have a very obsessive and anxious mind. It's always working on stuff and trying to plan the future, and it just doesn't let things go until I fix them or until I accomplish them. And that's good most of the time because it keeps you busy and it helps you plan for the future. But the times in my life where things really shifted or changed are where I had an experience where I could actually like surrender, like do my best, and then like almost like throw my hands up, like throw the white flag up, right? Surrender to whatever's going to happen, because once you do your best or everything you can in your power, there's like this magic power in the universe. You can call it God, you can call it your subconscious, you can call it the universe. And magic things happen when you do really scary stuff and put yourself out there and then hand it over to the whatever that source is, whatever you want to call it. So that's how I mean, religiously, I grew up in a very religious home where it was very controlling. It was a mindset of scarcity, I would say, right? It wasn't a place of love or abundance. And so when I finally threw my hands up and had a spiritual experience, I was able to walk away from that religion. That kind of like that gave me this sense of abundance and freedom that I never had before in my life. And once I got that in my little spiritual corner of my life, it started spreading. So it spread to money with crypto. And then it spread to like your emotional, like there's a lot of people where you got, we all come up with trauma, PTSD, or our insecurities and baggage. And all of those they almost all come from a mindset of scarcity, right? There's not enough. There's not enough love. There's not enough time. There's not enough energy for the people in your life or for you, right? And so it was like a domino falling. Once I threw my hands up with the spiritual thing, it just kind of rolling. So I kind of try to push that in what I try to do in life is work my ass off and then hand it over and say, look, I'm committed. Wherever this goes, it's going to go.
Yeah, dude, I think that's awesome. I think if you don't surrender all your, like, maybe it's more like a handoff. It's like you do your best, you hand it off to the world, knowing that when you put good out, that good will come back to you.
Yeah. Well, and I guess there's one more caveat. When you do hand it over to the world or to, whoever it is that's pulling the strings in the matrix, you also commit. So you're saying, look, I'm handing this over to you, but whatever I have to do from this point forward, I'm committed. I've burned the boats. I'm not going back, no matter how scary, no matter how uncomfortable, no matter how painful this gets, I'm committed to whatever you bring to me. So they'll bring people into your life. They'll bring opportunities into your life. They'll also make big obstacles disappear right before your mind, right? It's magic. There's no other way to describe it.
100%.
But that's what I keep seeing in my life as I get older and older. You know, I'm in my 40s now, so I've got a little bit of tread on the tire.
Nice. A lot of wisdom there. I mean, what's amazing to see, a lot of things comes to mind, when the things you just said, because it brings me back to my journey and all the things that I've learned, right? From the law of reciprocity, right? The law of use. A lot of the things that you mentioned, you can see that whether in businesses, you can see that in, spirituality. When I was on my journey of personal development, and I started it, and I still do to this day, I stumbled on this guy, Aaron Doughty, is online, and he talks about that kind of stuff. It's a state of mind of calling it being whole and complete. In other words, you're not coming from a place of lack, like you were talking about.
The scarcity, yeah.
Exactly. A scarcity mindset. And one of the best way to fight that is what I always talk about, which is gratitude. Gratitude is the ultimate how to basically kill anything. Anything that you think that you lack of, anything that you're negative about, that's hard to get the negative feedback loop. When you just focus on what you're grateful for, a lot of those things goes away. And I realized at a young age, without knowing the definitions, right? Every time I always find something that I was really, really good at, or when I excel at something, I always operate from that place of being whole and complete, of being not needy, not clingy, not desperate, not calculating, oh, what can I get in return, this and that. Like you were talking about also burning the ships. All of that, it just comes to the fact that you're just going to trust the process. This is the plan. This is what I'm going to do. Boom. Right. When I first invested, even into Hex or certain things that I have a long-term view on, I said, this is the plan. We don't need to put a date on it. I'm just going to activate. And because I operate like that since day one, I ended up always hitting my goals ahead of time because I wasn't so worried about the how fast can I get to the destination. I just need to know that as soon as I know where I'm going and the vision is clear, everything that I'm going to do towards that is going to be stepping stone, and I'm just going to be grateful along the way. So that mindset is really what dictates all of that. And another thing that you said that's powerful, I think there's a distinction between being religious and being spiritual. Because I also grew up in a family where it's like my mom's very religious, and it's funny because my mom is Catholic, she's Christian, and my dad is Muslim, right? So I've got exposed to both, which is great. But what I've realized a lot is religious people, most of the time when I talk to them, not all of them, of course, I want to preface this, but it's like a lot of the time they don't really know why they do what they do. A lot of them is like, oh, I'm so and so because my parents were so and so, because this and that. And then some of them end up finding their reason along the way, but most of them they don't. Versus spiritual people, there is that kind of like very self-conscious decision of I want to do good in the world. I am very self-aware of who I am, who I'm surrounded by, and how I affect and impact others. Again, to what I have seen, and this is what I said, that's kind of what I'm focusing on, because you could be spiritual to the point where it almost feels religious, but you're doing it because it's the right thing to do. You're a human being. You just be. There is no reason. There's no target. Like I said, I'm not doing this because I'm going to get that in return. Like, you know what I mean? I'm just going to act and be the best version of myself.
Yeah, I agree with you, Raymond. I think like a lot of that is like the power of visualization really opens up for you when you do have gratitude and you come from a place in your heart. It sounds like mushy in that, but it's really not. It's just that's where all the creative capacities for human life really comes from, is from the heart. Without some form of love, like no humans are created, or at least no meaningful society is created. And
Wow.
I think like if you don't have that gratitude element, which seems like willy-nilly on the surface, especially if you're like a young person that thinks the world is just dog eat dog, you're really missing the point. Because ultimately, like if you're when you act from a place of simplicity and like ease, comfort, and knowing, like it allows you to actually be more creative and have more inspiration, and in your the way your mind thinks evolves. So instead of your mind going in a racetrack on a 2D plane in like a NASCAR track and the same circle over and over and over, for example, like the path of addiction. You let go of that and you get rid of that heavy weight and you're freed up so that now when you go in a circle, you're no longer going on a flat surface, but that you're being propelled upward through space and time, which is part of that whole process of letting go.
This is good. This is gold right here. Like the idea of paying attention, like you were saying earlier, and the gratitude switch. Because when you're in a scarcity mindset, or you're fearful or stressed out, your parts of your brain literally just shut down, right? It shuts down the creative part, the thinking part, and it just goes into that survival part of your brain. But if you can feel, like you guys said, if you feel like everything's going to be okay and you're grateful, it lights up the rest of that brain to be creative and solve problems. So it's beautiful.
Exactly. And again, it goes back to understanding those law of nature, so to speak. You know what I mean? Because even the people that don't really get it, or that are negative, they don't understand that they're still applying those things, but in a negative way. You know, right? Like the famous saying, the person that usually thinks that he can, the person usually that he can't, are usually both right. You're
Yep.
activating those things, but you're just not doing that in a way that it's in your favor. If you
Yeah,
already know in general that
you see it in
something is hard
markets
to
all the
do,
time, don't you?
exactly. If you already know, for example, that something is quote unquote hard to do or whatever, why would you want to focus on the negativity aspect, or we're focusing on what I call the how can I mindset, right? Because your mind is like a operating system, in a sense that whatever you think about, whatever you kind of Google search, is whatever you will get. If you already think, I can't do this, I can't do that, it's too hard, it's this, it's that, that's what you're typing in the computer. That's the search that you're putting in. So those are the results that you're gonna get, aka more negative reinforcement of why you can't do, because you already decided in your mind that you can't do. Instead of looking up in the other way, and I used to say that all the time, previous things, is the mind of how can I? Meaning the operating system switch, where every time I find a big obstacle, I look at it like, okay, how can I solve this? How can I be better? How can I learn from this? This very painful experience that I just went through. Where is the silver lining? Where is the learning? What is something that I can flip? To the point people look at me like, why are you always so positive? And I told them, well, why do I gotta be negative? What's in there in that? And once you switch all of that, then your brain starts giving you those different search, which is like, oh, well, why don't you try this? Why don't you try that? Well, what other person that I've went through something similar, but then find a solution? So now you're in that solution-oriented mindset versus victim mindsets. Oh, woe is me. Bad thing happens to me. Bad thing happen often, to the point where you start to literally attract and wish for the bad things to come, because you're trying to, again, reinforce that negativity. So once you find that little biohack, just literally about controlling your brain without controlling it, but just by just putting those positive thoughts, all of a sudden they start to overwhelm you with that positivity, right? Same thing by just saying the things that you're grateful for, or having those affirmation, or when I take those cold shower that I talk to people about, and then you say, I'm alive, I'm alert, and I feel great. You see, tomorrow is my birthday. People always start calling me, but like I already think about even more grateful things and people that I'm gonna reach out to, that I'm gonna say, hey, today's my birthday. But like those are the things that I'm very grateful for, and those are the things that I'm looking forward in this coming up years. So I think that's really, really the key, being self-aware of that, how your mind works, and using that to your advantage.
Yeah, that's the really, really powerful stuff you guys are bringing out. In fact, it sounds like you guys are talking to me with stuff I'm going with right now in my life. You guys are giving me, it's actually feels like you guys been hanging out with me this week and you're giving me the perfect advice. So I appreciate that. You guys rock. And let's turn this back towards what we're doing as a community. The Hexagon community is taking on the really hard work of trying to onboard people and help them get over that learning curve of a new technology, a new language, and a new paradigm, a new story, right? So people have a story about money, and it's got them to where they are, good or bad. And crypto is a brand new story about abundance, about being your own bank, about being your own money printer. And so we're trying to convey this to people. And when we were down in North Carolina, I learned that I am not half as good at explaining shit as I thought I was, because I would answer a question and their face would still be blank. So I'd answer it another way, blank. and I'm like, oh, I gotta get better at telling this story. What do you guys think about what have you learned when it comes to telling the story of crypto to new people?
I think it's a really good question. And I think the way to tackle it is to put yourself, okay, this is like an exercise for everybody in the chat as well. Put yourself back in the year 1996 or 1999, pre-internet days, and just think about the way that you thought about the world then, before you had this routine of waking up every day, checking Twitter, checking YouTube, going on Insta. Um, now you're getting fed new information from sources that you prefer every day. It's reinforcing your worldview. Go back to the 90s when the thinking was more, I have to get up, I have to go work for somebody else, I have to put money in my bank account, that's my checking account. That's the ultimate authority on money. Like, put yourself back in those shoes and try to think about, there's still a ton of people that are stuck in that world, because that world still is the base reality for a lot of people. They've never even experienced a 2 or 3 times their money. They don't even know that that's a possibility. Like, so for I think fundamentally we need to remind ourselves that majority of the world has not had the privilege to experience a run up in crypto, or to use crypto even for the first time, and they don't know where to start. And part of the reason is because your bank apps that you use today don't allow you for direct integration into the crypto world. I mean, yeah, there's like a step beyond that where you can like attach your checking account to Cash App, or um, Coinbase app or some other app to like get funds in there, but that's something that needs to be taught as well. So I think, the point here is that remember what it was like, and try to start very simply. And for everyone's approach is going to be different, because each person thinks a little bit differently about that. But if they're in that mindset where they don't think it's a possibility, or that they don't like, if they're in a negative mindset, they're for sure not going to be able to tap into the possibility that they could convert $50 into $500 over like a year or two of time frame. They're just not even going to be able to adopt that paradigm. So I think it's good to remind them that just simple things like, look, there is another way. I've done it. And there's a lot of people on the internet who've done it, and kind of just start to point them in the direction of other teachers as well. Like Richard Hart's a great example of somebody who kind of like does a really good job of explaining things on a dumbed down level. I think, back, especially in this older content. And so when you're teaching this stuff, like, I just produced like a basics of crypto course, and I had to start back at the beginning. And instead of using, DeFi terminology, I had to use the terminology of basic banking and financial services stuff, because that's the paradigm that they're still in. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Well, a couple power things that I like. And by the way, sorry for the background noise. I might move. They just decided to turn on the music here for some reason. But what I would piggyback on, which is key, and this is literally the pro tip that I use personally all the time. People asking me, how do I do this? Is first of all, again, getting into the right mindset. 3 very, very powerful things. Maybe people want to write this down. Rule number 1, when you start, you want to share with people or whatever, remember, you did nothing wrong. In other words, there is no right or wrong. You start from that place of absolute certainty that the message that you're trying to share is going to do better for the world, better for the people that you're sharing it with. So the simple fact that you have the opportunity to share that message, be grateful about that and focus about that. Those who really rock with you or see these things are going to understand. So don't be too judgmental on yourself. Don't be too worried about, oh, do I say the right thing or this or that. The simple fact that you're willing to put yourself out there and share the message is literally the key. There's a saying we used to say in sales where it's like, somebody can have, a batting ratio of 8 out of 10, a Babe Ruth type thing. And then a guy that has a batting ratio of 1 out of 10, meaning 90% of the time, what he's delivering, people don't really get. But you just keep being out there and out there. This guy, swing 10 times, get 8. Maybe you have to swing 100 times, but then you end up doing better. And then you're going to get better over time. So starting from that state of mind, knowing that you did nothing wrong, that you genuinely are trying to help people, that's going to apply to what's called the law of resonance. And people are going to feel that energy. It's like, oh, wow, he's trying really, really hard to make sure that I understand this.
I agree with that. You
And
can't
then
make
number
somebody
two,
feel like they failed and that they're insignificant, because if you do, they'll immediately shut
exactly.
down. Yep.
Number two, correlated to that, right? My favorite thing, repetition. This is literally the key word. There is no shortcuts. People think that there's magical. No, I got better. Why? Because I was out there the longest. So you get better over time. You realize, oh, this worked, this doesn't work. Oh, this is a shortcut. This is analogies. This is things that some people are really good with words and very literal. Some people need to visualize. So you can explain something in multiple ways, either in a literal way, like people like to write things down, and there's people that like to see pictures. So over time, by being out there, you're going to be able to determine who needs what. Oh, this one is a visual learner. This one, he is more a numbers guy. And you're going to be able to pick up on those things in those conversations by knowing what they like. Just by being out there, repetition, no shortcut. So always do that, and do it with the right mindset, so that you don't feel like, oh, I'm not making any traction in this and that. You don't know. Which brings me to number three, what's called osmosis. This is how cow actually learn. You want to stimulate as many senses as possible, right? How does the baby cow learn from the mom cow? They don't talk to each other. It's by osmosis. Osmosis is you see, you feel, you touch, you hear. So monkey see, monkey do, right? Oh, mom is eating, I'm eating too. Oh, this is how she do this, I do that. Just by just being around. You see how your little kids or whatever nephews start hanging around you, to start act like you, right? Just by being out there, by providing that nest of like, hey, I'm on this journey with you. I'm going to help you, meaning, I'm going to be around, so that you're not on your own. Some people genuinely start learning when they realize that you're not just dumping this knowledge on them and then walking away. You're actually going to try to help them along the way, and baby steps. So now they feel that reciprocity once again. Oh, wow, he's spending so much time with me. I better make sure that I learn this thing, or that at least that I show that I'm trying, because I don't want to feel bad, like I'm not, I'm wasting his time. So when those three things are connected, you naturally start to get better. So you have a right mindset, a lot of repetition, and then you're taking people along the way on the journey, so they're not feeling like they're by themselves. And then next thing you know, one person, what did they say, right? The first follower is the most important one, right? And after that, boom, more comes in, and then you got a crew, and next thing you know, it's a community. So that's the way I would approach it.
That's really, really good advice. That's awesome. Let's say goodbye. We got over 60, almost 70 people watching. So like, subscribe. And if you see a clip here that really resonates with you, please feel free to clip it and share it on social media, because I guarantee if something that these guys are saying speaks to you and gets your heart rate up, then it's going to be a really good clip to share. And as we know, people are only watching the short form that are new, right? We're not getting them to watch these 2 and 3 hour streams. We got to get that short bite-sized nugget that Furu Finance has been pushing. So yeah, I go and do all those things. Just say goodbye. Hi to some people here in chat. We got Hex 647. We got T-Bird. We got Footsteps, Elliot KD, his Hexcellency. So you guys are really excited here. We got Wrenchy T. We got Henrik Christofferson, MZ. Dude, we got Vets in Crypto, Boom Boom, Harmonic Hexkin. Good to see you. Let's see here. He says, Axis Alive. Saw your tweet. 25,000 sats, 90,000 BTC means 22.5 hex. So that means $22.50 hex.
Yeah, it's actually $5.90. So but still, I mean, I'll take it. But if BTC
I'll take
goes
it. It's only $5. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, if BTC goes up too with it, then that number goes up too.
Yeah. We've got Urban Productions, Crypto King, Doug's in here, Tripod, Hex Live. Good to see you, man. We got Dave Down Under, Doug, Wake Dog. Usually I have all these people with wrenches that I've seen more than once. I got a wrench army going on, but you guys have brought in a ton of your viewers and your audience. So I appreciate you guys being here. Wake Dog, Torin. Speaking of making clips, Torin has made some really good clips. So shout out to Torin on that one. Pulse Alchemist. We got Tin Top in the house. MZ's got a paragraph there we might read later. But I want to keep this moving because we promised people, we teased them into some sweet chart, like get their chart fix going in, right? Because people are they're fiending for that information. They want to know, what does the bottom of a market look like? How high can we go? Where's the momentum? Where's the power? So I'm going to bring that up here on screen and put us down here in the corner. And look at that.
Good. Let's look at Bitcoin, because I mean that's the most data we have for crypto. I don't know. Do you guys want to compare it to the Fed funds rate so we can kind of see what that looks like? That's been something that's been going around on the web lately.
Yeah, that correlation is crazy. And shout out
in the stock market too.
Yeah, shout out to Mobius and Sandy Beach while we're waiting. Good to see you guys.
You guys are going to get a little bit of a sneak peek here about the kind of the chart sets I put together for the website, because I'm actually going to pull charts right from there. So this is kind of an example of what you can expect, like if you were to download this stuff from the site. But so this particular chart here, I'm going to max it out so maybe it's a little easier to see.
Okay.
Not quite what I wanted. Let's just do a little modification here. Okay. How's that look?
It looks good. The fat?
Yeah. Looks good.
So this is the orange line is the Fed funds rate. That is the Federal Reserve changing the amount of money it costs to borrow money. And then the white line is the S&P 500. And so what I want to bring your attention to are these yellow vertical lines here. So every time that the Fed decides that they're going to raise rates, let's go back to 1974. The Fed starts raising rates. Well, the stock market didn't just fall over right away. It slowly started to roll over. But it wasn't until the Fed pivoted and started to lower rates rapidly that you actually saw the final crash. Zoom ahead to like 1981. Feds raised rates like crazy. I think that got up to like 14% or something. It gets up to the top. There's like a slight pause, and it's not that the stock market gained until after the pause. They quickly pivoted on rates and dropped them drastically. That's when you got the downturn in the stock market, which seems small on this little white line. It seems small on this graph because you're looking at 70 years of data, but trust me, these crashes here were massive for their time. Let's zoom ahead again to the future. This was in 2000, the top of this. So this whole run up then was the dot-com bubble. And then in 2000, it wasn't until the Fed pivoted is when you started to see the stock market crash. Same thing here. Same thing most recently with COVID. But now it's getting funny because you'll see here that the Fed funds rate stays flat down here between the year 2008 after the great financial crisis all the way through. Then they started to raise rates. Well, this whole time, the market was going up, 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 up. And so then it wasn't until you didn't get your COVID dump until they decided to pivot on rates. So the thinking here is that if you're a hedge fund manager, if you're a government and you're sitting on a boatload of assets, why not dump them when they're high and then borrow money to buy them back 5-10 times cheaper when the bottom? That's the thinking here. That's why it takes the pivot on rates down to near zero interest rates for these to occur, because then effectively what you could do is sell a higher price, then borrow money at almost no cost to you, and then buy back all the assets.
Yeah, like buying the dip. And then what's impressive to see here for most people to really catch the drift is because markets are always kind of forward looking. So they also need that kind of story to justify why the pivot. In other words, they're doing what's called right now being disinflationary, where it's slowing down just like it's protected, 25 basis points, but they're still technically rising rates. So it's going to rise all the way to the point where, like what you used to talk about with the plumbing, and then something is going to break. And when it breaks, that's when the market crash in reaction of the break. And then they have to pivot to then turn on the printer like crazy to then again cover because things are going to break. So that's why it goes like that. And then you can expect somewhere around March, April, because based on what the Federal Reserve were talking about, because watch the fade minutes and stuff, we're going to be keeping getting those 25 basis points. Powell saying maybe another
Yeah,
two
one or
rate
two, I would say
hikes.
probably.
Exactly. And then you'll be like Axis is talking about, you're looking at March. That's when they're most likely gonna be like pivoting or at least stop raising rates. And then you could expect that little mini crash right at that point. And then unemployment will be most likely higher at that point because the Feds is not trying to create too much like stock market going up. Because then what's going to happen is going to increase inflation again. Because the mechanism is if stock market goes up a lot again, people get too rich again, then they start buying stuff, and then again, not enough goods and services, too much paper, aka inflation goes back up.
Yeah, so these red circles here, I just want to remind you guys, these are 3 to 7 month windows. So it's not so you have time to like, because right now, so these are like short, that's kind of roughly the time frame you're looking at from the point that they stop to pause rates or to slow them down. Well, so then this was the first slowdown from 0.75 down to 0.25. So now rates, this chart will start to level off now. So what you're looking at is basically a 3 to 7 month window, which lines right up with Kareem's roughly April timeframe out to midsummer timeframe for a potential crash in the markets. So your recessionary period could come, but not until more upside. So the thinking here is that you're going to see max pain now to the upside from people that are like, oh, well, the market's going to crash anyways, so I'm going to wait for lower prices. But then Bitcoin will go even higher because it'll be like, well, if everybody's waiting for lower prices, then the smart money can run the price up against them because their ultimate goal is to make other people FOMO in to become exit liquidity until the market actually becomes bullish after the major crash that's coming. I hope that
Exactly.
kind of makes sense. It's all reverse psychology.
It's the pump and dumps of the regular markets that have been going on forever, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yep. And one more thing, which is key, this is the reason why we've been saying that what we're experiencing right now, obviously getting off that bottom is very similar to what happened, when we were at the 3K, 4K bottom and rise up. Because when you combine all those things together, you say, okay, we're getting the run. Bitcoin's going to go into most likely, lower 30s or
Yeah,
slightly
let's check the
higher.
Bitcoin
But
chart.
again, it's that 60-day period that we're talking about, which coincide with the funds rate, which coincide also with what the stock market is doing, right? Creating that slightly higher low, so to speak, and then you get that little dump. But the way people really FOMO in again become exit liquidity is after that initial pump. You're gonna get the golden cross. People are gonna get excited. I talked about it when I was on Well Stream 10 days ago, and then they're gonna forget everything that we talked about here about and then when they get back in, that's when the rock gets pulled.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it's
So you gotta
perfectly
keep
good
that.
because it protects those guys, it protects your bottom buyers, but it still leaves opportunity for this to sell off massively back down.
Exactly. So I can see it, dude, like you have your line perfectly. I can see, 32, maybe 38. And it doesn't really matter about what exactly, it's about just keeping the macro things, which is ask yourself 2 months from now when the Fed is about to pivot, doesn't matter what Bitcoin is, that's the part you need to start getting worried because that's most likely when the rock is going to come. Now, whether we get to 30, 35, or 40, who knows? Just look at just the
Yeah,
time
just
frame,
to show you
that
guys
end
a
of
little
month.
TA on how you calculate that. You basically take the measured move from the breakout. So if you can see these lines, I'm going to make them a little more bright so you can really see
Mm-hmm.
them. Basically, this downtrend started back at the break of 33, 34K. And I think pretty sure that one of these big sellers was maybe Apple or Tesla. It might have been Tesla that sold basically at their buy-in price, the rest of their holdings. That started like a liquidation event, as well as with everything that was going on with all the bankrupt exchanges. But so
Yeah.
basically, how you do this is you take this measured move from this breakdown or from the width of this high to the to the to the low here of the pennant that was created, and then you copy this out to where the breakout occurred, which was right here, and then you measure that out, so that has you roughly hitting basically the target here is 37,000. So I wouldn't use that as like the Bible of it, but I would say like, okay, so we can take that number, 37,000, and then we can also run a Fibonacci retracement level and see that the 50% retracement and the 618 our key levels. So then you're kind of landing within this zone. So basically 32,000 to 38,000. So that's kind of how you come up with a certain target zone.
Yeah, and I'm so glad that you mentioned Tesla, and it is others like Apple's and Google, because it coincides also perfectly with why I like also Bitcoin versus stock market. Because again, when the stock market, aka the big one, Tesla at the time, because those are the big mover, were going down, then he drags, what I mean, the whole stock market down as well. And now that they're all pumping, Tesla is pumping, Rebecca pumped again to get, and then you get all the earnings, the Google
Yeah, the earnings
earnings.
were this week for like Caterpillar, for Meta, for was Tesla this week?
Exactly.
Forget it.
So especially tech, not the Dow Jones so much, but tech,
It was tech
because
most.
tech is what pushed Bitcoin. So Nasdaq. So now, if you put literally Bitcoin and Nasdaq, you get to see historically every time Nasdaq go
Yeah,
about
we can do that.
10%,
This
Bitcoin
is the
pumps.
NASDAQ index chart. So you can see that it was actually underperforming the rest of the stock market. So for some context here, it just only broke its major downtrend resistance in January 23rd here. But if you look at
Mhm.
the Dow Jones, it broke out way back in November of last year. And then
Exactly.
if you look at the S&P, it broke out about the same time from this major downtrend resistance. But it took a stab at it back in December and it failed. So
Yeah.
this was actually quite eye-opening that you finally got actually this test candle here, and then it broke above, and now you're having continuation on that, and it's still not quite even made the upper
Yep.
side limit here.
And the cool thing about the overlay, all those little mini runs, what I mean, those little bull runs, because you can have bull run in a bear market, because
Mhm.
people not to
This is a
confuse, right?
weekly
You have
chart, by
bull
the way.
run and
So that's,
exactly. So every time they run about 10% when you overlap with Bitcoin, Bitcoin do about a 30 to 35% rise. So if you extrapolate that similar thing, this is the leading indicator. Again, all starting from the Fed, because the Fed put everybody at ease by just, because what market hates is unpredictability. Now that we predicted the 25 basis point and is what's happening, and then powered through the word disinflationary, which is good, meaning inflation is still here, but it's slowing down at its rate of acceleration, which is great. So this is why you could not guarantee, but look at it like, Bitcoin still got a way to go, because Nasdaq is allowing it to rise. So because all those big companies, they probably have bots in the markets like, hey, when this goes up to this point, move some funds over here to the risky
so
capitals.
so to so to your point, Kareem, you
Mm.
can see here that the Nasdaq ran 14% off the low in 34 days, and then Bitcoin ran 45% in the same time frame. So it's just proving your point that they look the same, except that Bitcoin's a high beta, more volatile asset that overperforms in those conditions.
Yes, sir.
So another cool thing to look at, just something for you guys to put into your portfolio book of measuring and toolkit. Basically you do that. You do Bitcoin divided by the IXIC, which is the Nasdaq. I'm going to get rid of Bitcoin, and now the chart will look a little different. I don't know if you can recognize it right off the bat, but on the regular Bitcoin chart, let's see, that's the top, and so this is Bitcoin over This is Bitcoin measured in Nasdaq. Let's see here. Look at how it's just
Yep, it's just starting, because it could run again. And
perfectly bouncing off the 2019 key levels here.
yep,
And so it to me it's not done, because here's your top, and that would probably be somewhere around that 32 to
that 30,
36,000
yeah,
range.
32 to 38 that you were drawing earlier,
Hmm.
which is that neckline. And then if you were to throw a little mini, a TA, not that it matters because we're mainly macro people, but usually when you break from that, falling wedge, you go to the previous, what I mean, resistance that was there from the long term support. So it just makes sense.
Yeah. Let's see.
Same way after the COVID dip, you see where we kind of ran up to that previous top, and then we kind of stick around for a little bit, and then it went up a little more after that. So
Which one here? This one here. This COVID would have been
yeah,
March here,
exactly.
right
And then
here.
it went up, and then it paused right around that mini top, which then become now support. That's literally.
This is amazing to me, like how this looks on this chart. This is basically just like a triangle, but if you look at the regular Bitcoin chart, which I'll do now, it looks just looks completely different. Look at look at COVID. That spill was way nastier against the dollar than it was against Nasdaq. So it's funny because Bitcoin becomes a hedge against Nasdaq in some ways, just because the upside's so strong, it actually diminishes the volatility over the long term. It's So it's so interesting when you start looking into this stuff deeper. But yeah,
Yep.
so just Bitcoin looking great. So we finally got above that downtrend resistance. And now it's supported by the 0.236 Fibonacci retracement level. So I wanted to say one more thing about basically comparing this breakout and this cycle to 2015. This is something like a lot of other smart individuals are seeing as well, is that we may be in this run up here before you come back to test the lows, and as many as 2 times. And then this is technically a lower low, but it was such a quick wick up on the weekly that
Mhm.
you might get an opportunity to buy lower, but smart money is going to buy that up in a snap.
Yeah.
Same
I
as you have
believe
here.
me, it's more like the 4K one, the 4K bottom.
You think it's
I
like
think
this?
it's one of the most likely things to do that because again, it could run. We could still be in a quote unquote bear market where it's like we might not do a new high, but look at that. It looks almost picture perfect
I agree. So you'd be roughly, and then look
because
at how it perfectly taps the 618.
because this is what I would say, right? The play, most likely, that's what I'm thinking. We get to that zone within that 2 months, like we talked about, with the Fed rising 25 basis points month over month, right? And then when they're ready to pivot, that's why it does that little double top. I don't know if we're going to have a COVID moment, but then I see a nice cool off. And then towards the end of the year, that's when we hit that escape. But I think we get just that mini bull run still in the bear market, if that makes sense.
I agree. I think that your max pain right now is to the upside because so many people got left behind on this most recent move that now want lower prices, and so the market's not going to give it to them. Period. It's time to leave those guys behind that didn't buy the bottom here and here and here. And now you're trading above it sideways, and there might be attempts to break that level, but eventually you're going to build up, and you can't go out too far in the future because we're still looking for that breakdown by May, on a Fed pivot. So then the time frame here
Yep.
doesn't give you a lot of time. It gives you like basically 2.5 months to
Yep.
basically get the price up to this level in the most violent way. You know what I mean? And this is basically
And
where
that final
sellers jump in.
confirmation, yeah, and that final confirmation, what we talked about, is going to happen literally this weekend or early next week. Meaning, it's how the consolidation is going to happen. And I use the golden cross as my perfect indicator because on the 2015 example,
Which moving averages is the golden cross? Do you remember?
Daily between the
50
50 and 200.
50 and the 200
15,
on the daily.
200.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Let me
that would
ask
be
you guys both this real quick. Do you guys think that the Fed pivot or the Bitcoin halving will have a greater effect on price this Spikle?
Fed pivot first. Bitcoin having has effect, but it's just one fundamental. It's not that good. It's there. It does matter, but the Fed pivot is really the key. That's why I told people don't get too into the technical 32, 38, whatever. Just ask yourself when the Fed's about to pivot, be ready. Because that's most likely when the rock is going to, because everything is connected. Because it starts from there. Then the market gets spooked. Then stock market gets hit. Then crypto gets hit because Bitcoin gets hit. And then liquidity start to move the other way. Because it's all about understanding the plumbing so that you get to see where it's going to be. Now, technical helps along the way, but Fed pivot is key because if the Fed do something you don't expect, who cares about your TA? It's not going to matter. You're just going to get
yeah. What do you think?
But right
Axis. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah.
You can finish. You can finish, Kareem. I didn't mean to jump in.
But I said, but right now, because we know it's going to happen, I'm just trying to determine if it's going to look like 2015 or if it's going to look like the 2018, 2019 4K. And it's all going to come down to how do we do the golden cross? Because on one case, on the day of the cross or what after, there was a dump. Because that's also how they trap liquidity. Oh my God, golden cross! Everybody
We
gets
can go
FOMO
back
when
and
they should
look.
have. Yeah.
Here's
You said the 50 and the 200, right?
Yeah, but it's a daily
Whoops.
chart, not weekly.
Gotcha.
It has to be the daily chart.
We're
getting close here.
Shout out to Jamie Cameron and French Made Bullies and Hex on Air. They both joined us here at Sandy Beach. Dave Down Under also asked, has anyone ever done any homework on what happens price-wise on launch day of new blockchains and exchanges like, but I don't know, like the last few exchanges we've had are like different versions of Uniswap, and then you'd almost have to go back to EOS and Ethereum to see what happens when a big layer one drops, wouldn't you?
you got to first ask yourself, I mean, what is the state of the market when the thing is about to drop? But let's finish this up
Yes.
here because this is very important. I see.
Yeah,
You see one around the 4K
right
of
here.
that previous level. You see how like we didn't dump, right? It consolidated by going sideways.
Yep.
The cross happened.
I'm
and
right
then,
with you, bud. I think the same thing's occurring right
boom.
now because you're still in an uptrend. See how this on the daily is in an uptrend?
Yes.
It's actually in an ascending broadening wedge, which can do this. It's basically demand is increasing. It's getting more volatile to the upside.
Because the people waiting for it's gonna come back, and it's not happening, and the FOMO kicks in, and then they become the candle that takes it to 30K.
100%.
Because now they're
like,
chasing.
okay, it's confirmed 25K support. This is the thinking. Here's 25K. You get up to 25K. You maybe go all the way to 28K. You come back hard down and you test 25K a couple times. And then somehow you start to build up structure, and then these are the guys that jumps in on a confirmation trade. And the reason why I know this is because I consulted with one of my trader buddies today, and he's actually like upset because he thought the Fed announcement was going to bring prices back down, and it didn't.
Exactly.
So he missed his chance to buy, and now he's like, well, I'm still waiting for lower prices. Well, he's going to be waiting a really long time. And so what happens is most people aren't patient, and they'll just buy up here at a confirmation trade.
And literally they're the reason why the chart looks the way it's gonna look, because they're gonna incrementally FOMO in at the time. And that's what I'm saying. It looks like the 4K, because the one in 2015, you get to see how it did a golden cross and then it automatically dumped. And then he runs still after. But that's why I'm thinking.
Yeah, so your golden cross, guys, is coming.
And next week is gonna be that cross. So how we cross is gonna tell me if I'm confirmed on the 4K, which is my assumption right now. Because again, this felt like a disbelief, because most people, and I told Abu Wells 10 days ago, most people didn't thought this would happen because they didn't do the other market analysis. They thought, oh yeah, and Fed's not gonna do 25 basis point. People thought they would do 50, and now boom, this thing comes in.
This is it, you guys. So this is disbelief, and I know it looks a lot bigger on the Bitcoin chart, but disbelief is when everyone was bearish. There was 9-to-1 shorts to longs, you guys, at the bottom. 9-to-1. That's not coming back down anytime soon. Like, everyone got left behind. And then you hear Kramer saying this is a manipulated market and I would stay out of it. Well, that's to do the opposite of whatever Kramer says, basically, and you win.
Did you see the joke about the big short guy that said sell and then he deleted his Twitter account?
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Oh
well, watch it. It's epic, because the day before Powell, he said he wrote one word tweet, sell, and because he thought the market would go down, and then he gets wiped out because he had shorts open, obviously, and then literally the next day he deleted his account.
Rough, man. Yeah, I mean, so this rally is going to create a golden cross. And look at this was a sell-off that Kareem was talking about. I think was this attempted breakdown, but it failed. Like, it didn't break this candle here. And so what you're going to see is a wick back up, 50% back up the wick, some sideways, and then you're going to start to take off quickly. And then, so then time frame wise, like going out, like this run can last quite a while, like at 190, like let's say 95 to 150 days roughly, which will get you. And then now Fed's going to change their mind, and you're going to start to see forced selling again for the second wave. So you can watch these crosses over and over again. This crossed 4 times before we had another bull market. So this is what everyone thinks already was going to happen, but it's not until after the massive run up.
Exactly. And the moral story here is that even you see this, oh my God, look at this crack, it's still much higher than the 3K bottom. In other words, that's why we told people we bottom out. Because even if you run and you do a little correction, you're still creating a higher low. And that's really, really the key.
Notice here that we didn't really trade too much below here, even on the COVID crash. This level was still protected strongly. Yeah, the price got down there for minutes, but that's just fear-based, downside overperformance.
Yeah, how many people bought there? You know what I mean? Probably was just bots.
Yes, sir.
And just in comparison, can you show 2015?
Yeah, that's kind of what I wanted to get into next, was like, basically how 2015 was. So your golden cross is coming in here. And, maybe that this action is all of the stuff that happened leading up to and around FTX. And it happened a little higher on the chart last time. So it would have happened up in here. And then you got that final breakdown to where we just blew out of. And so then this is what Kareem's I think this is what you're saying is, does this happen again where it invalidates the golden cross? Is that what you're thinking?
Yes, I think that shouldn't happen. But again, we'll never know. But next week we'll find out. But I think it shouldn't happen. And
I
then
don't think
maybe
it will either, just because how big the market is now and how the world already like knows Bitcoin now.
Yeah.
Wow.
It might skip that first cross and do like the second cross. See how high it went up? The wick.
This one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice little shooting star, and then, but still.
Yeah. This is the first cycle, I think, where the general population understands that you can't write off Bitcoin anymore. Because even back in here, you could still assume that potentially Bitcoin was going to go to zero. But like that now notion kind of doesn't work anymore. There's just so much money in it. Even if it's just from a opportunity of trading perspective, even though it's way beyond that now. There's an entire economy built on the mining sector of it.
Exactly.
And
if you look at it also even in a simple technical sense of it, you know what I mean? The bottom where Bitcoin has been so far, the 15.4, whatever, it's like the support because it was the previous top of previous cycles. So in a way, if you treat Bitcoin like, oh my God, it's this new S&P 500 because it's the older dog in the crypto space, that mini TA is still kind of respected. Where it's like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
14K.
we didn't spend very much time down here. I got actually a chart here that's very, very interesting. I gotta see if I can quickly find it. I think I just recently tweeted it out. It basically is like, you know how there's that Fibonacci extension tool where you can like extend out upside? Well, I did that same tool, but I did it to the downside off the first major dumps off the highs. Basically, Bitcoin never stayed under the 1618 to the downside for more than 180 days. And if I can find the chart here, I mean, I tweet a lot.
So that's crazy accumulation zone. It's like how people know when you're below the 200 moving average. It's like,
check this shit out. So it's like picture perfect every time. You spend almost no time below the 1618 in every cycle. And I actually did this. This tweet goes back to December 5th. So I said that a fresh break below the 1618 could last from 30 to 185 days, and I think it lasted about 42 or 45 days, and then we were out, and now we're back above that line. And so look at just historically, you spend almost no time below that level.
And those are legendary buying opportunities. That's the key takeaway right there. That's why it doesn't stay that long, because those who see it snatch it while they can.
I guess this would probably be a good point to pivot and start talking about, well, so how does all this knowledge and opportunity, how does this affect the Hex market? What is this going to do to the Hex price chart?
Yeah. Well, before we get to that, let me ask you a couple of questions, you guys. If we don't go down to the 11K and pray area, why is this time different than the ones before?
I think it's because you didn't get a blow off top. You had a rounded double top. And so because there was so much speed and violence to this on this first initial move. And then you had like this double top scenario that was different than in the past. Because even this 2015 bull market was more gradual and then led to a blow off top. I think this was because this price was suppressed below this line for so long, and there was so much manipulation of the chart in here. Remember the old BitMEX days? That it just acted in a new way, and now now the way I see this is because it was an underperformer to the upside, and a lot of smart crypto investors and traders decided Bitcoin is just slower and weaker gains, so then they started to take the parabolic top off of Bitcoin, so to speak, and they put it into other cryptos that ran harder. And I think that's going to continue, which is going to actually stabilize the Bitcoin chart over time into like a more, I mean, it'll always be volatile because it's limited in an amount and it's constantly getting rarer. That doesn't change the fundamental thesis that this thing is over time, it's going up at a slower rate and becoming more stable.
Yeah. So a couple of things to actually piggyback what Axis just said. So it's like as the year goes by and as more quote unquote institutional whatever joins in, Bitcoin start to look more and more like regular traditional market and tech. So like Richard said a long time ago, we never done a double top before. That's more like traditional market style. Now we got that. Now you extrapolate that and say the same thing on the opposite side, which is there's also something called double bottom. In double top, usually the second top is usually slightly high, it makes a slightly higher high. Double bottom also can do that, where the second bottom could just be like a kind of look like a new low, but then quickly gets out of there, and then that's why it looks like a pennant, and then it's just bullish. So you could say the first bottom was around that 18K, and then the second bottom was around that 15K. So again, creating that double bottom, which then changes the shape, and then from there, boom, everything takes up. That's one.
Yeah.
Number two, everything could be technical. I can sit here and tell you we've been having that 11K and less than that, because at some point you could buy BTC, with a negative premium, negative 50%.
It's true.
So if you actually do the math, we've been there.
Yeah.
People have been scooping. It's just
Let's
you
see.
couldn't buy it, but big money was buying it. That's why the premium went from negative 60 to negative 40.
So you've actually started to see that. You can see here that it's actually the GBTC is starting to come back up now. It started a new trend. So if I go out to,
especially while the price is going back up, that's huge. Because usually if you're negative 40%, right, and then the price goes, let's say, up 10%, and then the ratio of the premium still stay the same, you're supposed to go negative 50% because the price went up 10%. But if the price is going up 30-some%, and not only you're not extending the lowering of the premium, but you're closing the gap, that means massive amount of money is coming in and buying that out. So in other words, again, we've seen it, and we've seen even like some exchange like do a little like mini crash where it got hit. So in my mind, we've been doing 11K and pray.
I've also heard rumors that there's other countries on like local Bitcoins where Bitcoin's trading at like huge premiums of like over 30,000.
Oh yeah.
So that's usually an indicator that the bear market's coming to an end, because if
right now, in Nigeria, 37,000.
Nigeria it is
Bitcoin.
Okay.
Right now.
So that's it to me. That's like, okay. So what that tells me, just very simply, is the U.S. policy is affecting their sovereign currency, their nation state currency, and so like they have no choice but to then use something else. And so then because they're using that, there's actual demand that's making the Bitcoin more expensive there. So somebody else somewhere in the world is going to lower that premium by offloading Bitcoins from another country and making a huge profit, which will make price meet in the middle somewhere between current price and 37K, which would put you roughly around that 28 to 32K region. And then that's without any extra buying pressure or speculation or forced buyers because they got left behind, which will eventually get it up to those higher price targets.
Yep, somebody's definitely performing that arbitrage play. And then also the fun fact is in that story is that the government started to create a kind of like CBDC, and people just say, yeah, F that garbage, because they went to like the electronic Naira type of like for crypto version, and they're like, nah, they just went to Bitcoin. They just used that as a confirmation that, oh, you guys are doing crypto now? Well, more reason to double down on Bitcoin. So, but yeah, no, people are realizing what is going on. You got the Fed acting as predictive. You got the market after being so much exhaustion of selling pressure. If you look at all the RSIs being crazy on I'm talking about on the weekly, you know what I mean? Stochastic RSI, regular RSI, stuff that you're going to even see when we get to the Hex chart. And then you add the fact that miners are not selling, the hashing keeps going up. So all those indicators.
So somebody wanted to adjust the Bitcoin chart for the M2 money supply. I think it's better when you do it against the M2 or M1, I mean.
We've also got a couple Hex celebrities here in the chat. We got Brissology, Gifford Ware, we got KD, and of course, shout out to Swizzle Sticks, and Daniel Polk says mood change confirmed ? What's
going on, everybody? Appreciate you all being here. Of course, I love doing the market action stuff. It's fun.
And if you're new here, hit the like and share this. I want to get this viewer count over 100. I think that Axis and Kareem definitely deserve as big an audience as possible because they're dropping some really good knowledge on you guys. So yeah, share that, please.
So this almost looks like this is Bitcoin versus the money supply, the M1 money stock. So it's funny because, like, to me, I don't know if you see the same thing I see here, but this is an inverse head and shoulders. And also this implies that if you're comparing Bitcoin price appreciation against the number of dollars in the supply, big money and smart players have been running the same play since 2017, over and over and over and over on everyone retail's heads that still didn't get Bitcoin.
A nice range.
The same play.
Easy money. And I mean, while we're going south, which you could say could be just a nice distribution pattern because we went up so much from the previous zone. So now, once we get out of here,
dude, and I've thought about this too, is like, at some point, if you do get above here, and then like, just imagine what's going to happen in true price discovery, and on a chart like this, it could be pretty wild. And what that would mean for the rest of crypto is just absolutely ludicrous gains. Like, because what's going to end up happening is the world's going to realize that they need Bitcoin to fight against central banking control. And when that, I mean, there people have said that for many years, but now I think it's becoming more of a reality of that everyone needs exposure to crypto. And so if Bitcoin's the gateway drug, then that's where the money flows in first, and then it filters down through the other alts after that. I'm not saying it has to play out that way, but just saying that based on this inverse head and shoulders pattern, if you get back up to the top here, it's more just easy, simple to draw like this, and it can like double or triple off that level, which would mean many multiples for Bitcoin. You're looking at
Yeah, it makes sense because
120,000
blockchain technology is
the
here
low
to
end.
stay. For those who didn't get the memo, so it's like it's going to happen, and then also you could see I could easily see a future where Ethereum piggy bank from that too and just really dominate. I mean, they're already deflationary, and then now you're gonna add when this breaks out, and then that money is gonna find its space inside the crypto space, most likely going to those projects that's gonna scale, and that's gonna be the future of crypto. So
I think I want to just
exciting
remind everyone that Hex is here, and
On the
so
timeline?
I think so.
Mhm.
I think
Mhm.
I think if you had to be honest with yourself, Hex is
We got
here.
another 1,000x to go, easy.
And so this is the move you don't want to miss, because otherwise you become distribution for 10 years.
Holy cow!
You
What
know?
do you
And
guys what do you guys think about the idea of after you finish, or what do you think about the idea of Ethereum flipping Bitcoin this cycle?
definitely,
It could happen.
yeah,
I could
definitely.
see it happen. It makes
Let's look at
sense.
the chart. So this is Ethereum versus Bitcoin, and you can see that price has just been consolidating. And the theory here is that you could see Ethereum start to fall in dominance against Bitcoin if Bitcoin runs hard. But when you get that pivot in the Fed, Ethereum is
Boom.
going to hold up much better. And
Exactly.
the reason why I think that is because of the different distribution model of coins now is kind of no longer reliant on proof of work mining, so it reduces sell pressure and it has become somewhat deflationary. So
Yeah, they just added another pumpermental, pretty much. And then you can look at this, and this is just a bull flag. It's just doing it's planting the flag, you know what I mean? And then get ready to just get it to take off. So I look at it like, and it doesn't need much because Ethereum got more coins than Bitcoin. So to the point where it just needs to get to like the 20% range of a Bitcoin on a ratio to price, and then you're there. So in other words, like if Bitcoin stays where it is now, and you get like like something around like 3,500 or 4K Ethereum, you can flip Bitcoin. So it's like it's really not that hard. It's just once we get out of here, and then we move to the next zone, the same way he has done in the past when he painted another bull flag, and then he went crazy and did that little double sequence. I think when you get that, it's gonna be game changer.
yeah, like I said, there's a lot of actually thoughts that I have about Ethereum flipping Bitcoin. One of the main thoughts that I'm having is that potentially, if one of the scenarios where Ethereum does not flip Bitcoin is because of adoption of other EVMs. And what I mean by that is, if Ethereum's gas fees were under control and it became total utility and could be used by all, then I think it would automatically flip Bitcoin. But because it's going to run into its own scaling problem, the same as Bitcoin, it may forever be locked in a certain ratio against Bitcoin. Not to say that it can't meet its all-time high again, but that it will forever be locked there. And then that money then that would otherwise have went into Ethereum to create the flipping event will then end up going into things like Pulse Chain or other EVM chains. And so then the money will be distributed horizontally across many cross interoperable chains. Instead of thinking of it as a one chain world, think of it more of like there's going to
Oh,
be
multi-chain.
underlying layers that make interoperability like way more feasible, so that
Yes.
like let's say this chain that runs 1-second blocks is going to run all of the computation, and then this chain which has the hex store of value is going to be where people store their savings and do their finance, and this chain's going to do another utility, and this chain's going to do another. And so then, but because they can all talk to each other better than Bitcoin,
That's the key.
that's what's going to
I
pop
think that's
all of
why
those
Ethereum
systems
made
together.
past Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm.
because of the interoperability. In other words, chain like Pulse Chain and many others EVM compatible could actually become the reason why Ethereum actually flips. Like what you used to say, the contrarian view, where it's like people used to think, oh, this other coin takes away from me, when in reality is like, no, because you can interoperate with the other one. You have that interconnection that gives you that network effect, which then makes your coin valuable even more because you can go in and out easily on the other one. The same way you have more Bitcoin wrapped up on Ethereum than in the Lightning Network. Similar type things. And then they added that engineer pumpamental by making it go deflationary and moving fully to proof of stake, because they're going to be locking up those coins and using Lido or whatever in hope to make it pump. So like Axis was talking about, there's two ways you can do it. You can do it by adding real utility and doing the scaling and keeping the price low. Or if they can't do it that way, they're going to do it by pumpamental analysis, by just making the staking and then, just locking up coins, making the supply low, and then from there, just make it fly. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I
What do you
see
guys think
Freddie's.
about
Yeah.
Freddie's question here about Tangent speaking earlier?
Yeah, so Freddie quotes asks, Tangent was on Spaces earlier, and he was saying that he thought that Hex would flip Bitcoin before ETH, and he wanted to know our opinion. And to me, that's a super simple answer, because when I say that Hex is going to flip Bitcoin before Ethereum, it's because I'm using the fully diluted market cap of roughly $18.3 billion right now. I'm not going to go off of all these other market caps that
this
have
fake ultimate.
smaller
Yeah,
numbers,
exactly.
because
Exactly.
because we include Satoshi's number in the Bitcoin valuation for market cap, so I'm going to include the OA in for Hex. It's just,
Yeah.
because of that, you're sitting at roughly 18.3 billion. So 18.3 times 60x, I think. Yeah. So it's $1 trillion. So Hex becomes $1 trillion market cap at a 60x, and Bitcoin sitting at, it can do a 3x and then roughly be over $1 trillion, because it'd be
Yep.
1.5 trillion. So my belief is that
And
Hex
that's
will
not even
do
counting the
100x.
copy too. Yeah.
True, yeah. So yeah, I mean, without counting the copy, because it gets, people have opinions on all that. Are they different assets, or are they the same? Whatever, it doesn't really matter. The point is, if Bitcoin goes to the all-time high again, you'd be seeing basically a 3x increase in market cap. So it puts you roughly a $1.5 trillion market cap. But for Hex to beat that, you'd need a 75x. No?
Yeah, and to me, again, it's common sense, because when you go back to the quick math of it, again, that's what Hex is designed to do. The velocity of its money will continue to slow down. The inflation continue to get delayed. If staking average, not if, when, continue to just get longer and longer and longer, then price will just naturally go up, because that's what it is designed to do, and that's what store value means.
Now,
So that's how you can gain
I don't-
market cap faster.
I don't want anybody looking at this chart and just going FOMO buying the price all the way straight up to 16 cents, even though I know it's going to happen. Just kidding. I don't know what's going to happen. But basically, because the liquidity right now is sitting at roughly the same amount that it was back when we were at 20 cents last year, that's what caused the run up from 7 cents all the way up to 56 cents. We were trading about $3 to $5 million of USDC in there. Well, you have about $3 million of USDC in there. So for the price to get back up and get right back up above 12 to 20 cents, it's still in the cards. It can still be done with the same amount of money as it always did. So think of it like that more, where it's so easy to get the price back up now that all these people have capitulated and sold the lows.
Yep. So many hundreds of millions capitulated. And then again, even if you look at the technical, there's not that much there, guys. The resistance is there's one around 5 cents, there's one around 6 point something, and then after that, there's nothing until 12 cents.
Think of it
and then
like
once you get there, because
you guys kind of glossed over that number earlier. You said that 75 cent Hex, if you count the whole market supply, is beats Bitcoin. Was that 75 cent Hex?
Oh no, I said if you had basically, if Bitcoin 3x's back to 66k, if Bitcoin does a 3x, X has to only do an 80x to basically beat it. So, but an 80x off the low, which was it's not even $2. right? So even
not
the other
even.
thing to keep in mind is just like it still takes a very, very long for a regular minimum wage paid person or a regular salaried person to acquire $22,000 to buy a Bitcoin to move the
Yes.
price. But it does not take a regular person earning a regular salaried wage or to acquire millions or thousands, hundreds of thousands of hex at $1 or $2, or better yet, at 2 cents. So this is what that flip, when that flip in sentiment occurs, the move up is so violent because the liquidity is the same as it was in the beginning. So the same price chart can perform again. And what happens is that initial burst pushes the price very high. And then with a little bit of support from big bags, like the price can maintain that level sideways. And then it forces other people to buy behind them.
Do you guys remember what your stakes were worth at 50 cents? Remember looking at Staker app and thinking that there was a glitch in Staker app now, and you guys are just like throwing out $1 and $2 nonchalantly. My head's exploding. Thank you so very much, Sandy.
It screws
Beach.
with
She
your
says
head.
hit the likes. Yeah, it bends reality. And I also want to say hi to Ancient Earthways in the chat there. Good to see you, man.
You know, it's funny because I remember when I make my first market analysis of what I wanted my stake to do in the future, I had that visualization of where I wanted the price to be and what I expected my daily payouts to be and stuff like that. Again, back to that visualization. So when I saw that and when I created the idea of the dream account and which I set it up for, those were the powerful things to remind you why accumulation is so powerful, why while the price go down, you should continue to salivate and just continue to do better and accumulate, because you're not looking at what the price is doing for you today. You're looking at what the price is going to be by the time you're ready to quote unquote cash out or take some money out. And that is literally the power of it. And most people don't realize that until it's too late. Like Axel was talking about, the violent pump comes in, you miss the boat, then added liquidity comes in just to become support. And then from there, you only buy what's left. And what's left is what's left. And then more people, as you know, price goes up, the less they want to sell. The less they want to sell, price continue to go up. So those feedback mechanisms are literally what's going to let people know, oh, you missed the boat. Next thing you know, you run behind it. And one last thing is you have bounding liquidity, which is very important. In other words, every time Bitcoin goes up, Ethereum naturally goes up, and we naturally goes up as well, just by following them. But then Hex also gain against Bitcoin and gain against Ethereum. They go up 10%, we easily go 20, 30%. So when Axis is telling you 3x, we only need to do 80x, it's because you already factored in that the simple fact that you're going 3x, we automatically go at least 9x. And then we just need to do a little bit more after that with a lower and lower liquidity. We've seen it. It's time and time again.
So this is the liquidity charts here, Kareem, and I'm going to tell you guys that the Hex in the liquidity pool for the USDC pair on the 0.3% pool, this was at like 360 million a few weeks ago, Hex. Well, now we're sub 100 million Hex in the pool. And the liquidity on the USDC, I saw it get as low as like 900K at one point. I think it was like 1.2 million was where it's at the lows. So now you have a 3x factor, a multiple of that. So now you have sitting roughly around 30 million of USDC. So you've tripled the USDC, and you've got 30% the Hex that was in there before.
Yeah.
And this liquidity setup here is way more balanced than it was just a couple days ago.
Hey, did you see what happened yesterday? And even the web bots put it on the Twitter. It's funny. If you go to the add remove, you'll get to see how like $1 million liquidity was added, and then they removed some.
Here.
Yeah.
Yeah, $1 million USDC was added.
Can you literally, like you're saying, price pumps, and then they add more liquidity to create support, and then if you miss that, those who are sitting here waiting for that 1 cent, good luck.
Kareem, that brings up a question I had. For people that don't understand why someone would raise and lower the liquidity, why would someone add more liquidity or take it away, guys?
A couple of things, right? This is basically what big players are doing, or what you call market makers. This is the reason why even on regular charts, I like to talk about what I call the DMI, directional moving indicator, because if massive amount of money wants to leave all at once, why give them the best price? You know, if you already panic, if you don't see the value, if you don't see the long term, that we're just going to let you exit because we're buying it at a low. You're giving us a lot of coin for less money. Why would we say no to that? And then when you're done, aka when we flush you out, then we do the next thing, which is removing the liquidity to allow the volatility to the upside to be better. Because again, volatility is not something that's bad. People still confuse that. Right? Like which one you said volatility is the price you pay for the highest performing asset. It's negative volatility people don't like, but positive volatility, they love it, right? When the price goes up hundreds of percent, that's still technically volatility. So to allow the price to accelerate higher, what we used to call also vector candles, like rapid acceleration, which creates FOMO, you need the liquidity to be low to do that.
Correct.
And then once you get the price where you want it to be, then that's when you add the liquidity to create support. Because you don't want it to like quickly go up and then quickly goes down, because then that becomes a pump and dump. You don't want that. You want it to quickly go up and stay up.
Because
That
that's
$1
what
million?
forces people to buy later. Yep.
Exactly. Oh, I like that. How you do that?
So this is a new indicator that was actually developed by a community member, and he took the liquidity pools and he actually added it in. And
That's
so
cool.
what,
Looks like the
onto the
VPVR.
price chart.
Yeah.
That looks like the VPVR on the premium.
It does look like that. But this all this is it's this liquidity pool from Uniswap transposed on the price chart. So you can see where the most liquidity is. So now see these white dotted lines here where I have liquidity gap. That was a giant gap in the liquidity, and I'll show you what that looked like. I had posted tweets about it recently.
You made Freddie's day by putting that up there. He got really excited.
You can see how small this this liquidity here was between 2.8 cents and 3.3 cents. What this was really was there was a group of there was a certain faction of the market that wanted lower, and there's a certain faction that wanted higher. And so some were supporting, some have sell resistance up here, or
and some just trading the range, because there's also bots in there too.
So what I say that saw this was like a lower range and an upper range. What price did is it shot through this liquidity gap, and then the market is now rediscovering price for the second time now, and so all this liquidity gap is gone, and I'll show you it now. See how that gap is gone, and now this is like a nice steady pattern upward of liquidity. So the market's now having to that add of liquidity is like now that's people having to reshift their thinking on market direction. Now you can see that this here between 3.2 and 3.3 cents, there's a big bar of liquidity here. That's obviously somebody's intention that they think that that's a key level to keep an eye on, whether they want to buy or sell, or maybe they want that to be support, maybe they want that, we don't know. But this bar here and this bar here between 4.1 and 4.2 cents has been there for months. So both of these bars have been here for months. So as we chew through, the way I see this playing out is, right now we're getting rejected off this bar because people are going to take the chance to sell there now because there's a little more liquidity there and it's easy money. And so maybe you could create some sort of a bull flag structure, and then bam, when Bitcoin and ETH make their second moves, you're going to get up into these zones. Then you're going to get another zone like this, and then this becomes support. And then you got to go do it again. And then this is when you come and you play with that 600-day downtrend liner. What is it like? Right now we've been in a downtrend for over about 500 days.
What price is that up there?
Oh, this is just 5.2 cents. So basically, if we can get if we start getting with force above this level and start creating support above this level, people are going to shift all this liquidity, because why would you leave liquidity
now
down
they're
here?
chasing. They got to move it up.
Yep, they'll have to move it up.
They're not going to make any fees down there.
They won't make money down there. So
or if you just want to accumulate, you got to move it to catch the hex, because now you're getting that.
100%, guys. That's exactly what's going on here. So you can see that the distribution is basically like this, and this is where the price is in the thickest band right now. So what you want us to do is create support here to go higher up, and then people down here are going to have to resituate their liquidity up into here.
Yes.
Where there's none.
And one more caveat, most of the little fish don't get, that they don't understand, is that big money actually sometimes look at this as also buying opportunity. In other words, they're looking to buy a shit ton, and they don't want to do it when the liquidity is small, because it's going to push the price against them back. They're looking for a zone like this. You're thinking, I'm a sell, right? Not understanding the macro, not understanding all the things that we talked about. You think, it's just going to be resistant and that's it. Not understanding that somebody's waiting. That's how Godwell did it when he doubled the candle, because he wanted a zone where when he snapped a bunch of liquidity out, it goes in his favor, but also he gets to accumulate a shit ton. So somebody comes in and buy the shit ton, that next thing you know, we're back above 5 cents, not to be seen again. So it's important to understand. It depends on which player is doing what.
I could show you a
It's not
perfect
only-
example of this on a chart for you guys. So if I pull up the, this is Hedron. I know there's a lot going on the chart, but the key here is this blue box. It says OA wall price support on the Hedron Hex pair. So if you notice here, as price came down on that massive dump day to touch the OA wall, that's where there began a large accumulation. So what this means is that people that were sitting on millions and millions and millions of hex that they print monthly for nothing, to no cost to them, if they see opportunity in Hedron, by the way, Hedron's up 91% off that low. If they see opportunity in this chart, they can take their hex and they can swap it for Hedron inside of the OA wall and not incur very much slippage, because there's a ton of liquidity in that zone, which then pushes the price right back up off that level, and then basically makes the price chart lighter again. So the price chart's heavier in here, but only insofar as there was no buyers. The problem was that there was a huge demand, and this thing wicked right back up off that 50% drop, 50% back to the upside off that OA wall. And so then, even though you came back down to retest, we didn't spend much time down there, and now price is broken out of its downtrend, both the uptrend and the downtrend, and now is heading higher on a strong hex price.
Exactly.
So this band here, if you look at it on the Hedron USDC pair, or I'm sorry, Hedron Hex pair, I'll show you exactly what I mean. Because it's key, because you need to have visualizations. If you don't understand this stuff, you need to be able to see it to really comprehend. Not to mention the TVL in the pools is going up. It's on a positive slope, meaning more liquidity is coming into the asset. So if I look at this pair, see this big thick block here? You don't see anything like this on a lot of the other hex pairs, but there's a ton of hex liquidity here, so that it provides opportunity for hex users that want to accumulate tons of Hedron at that OA wall. This is the OA's liquidity. They could do so, and then, but what ends up happening is it's like a trampoline, and it pushes the price right back out this way, which means price up for Hedron, because they'll just convert some hex into Hedron, and it'll push the price back this way to the right. That means that the Hedron price is almost, once it comes up to this level here, 3 more bars, it can just start going rapidly to the upside. And then look how fast it moved up, in 80% within this kind of thicker band.
So big accounts and wells, like the OA's basically got a gas pedal for each one of these assets when it comes to liquidity, right?
Yeah, because bonded liquidity right here, 101, teaching you that.
Okay, so I kind of got ahead of myself, because what I wanted to show you guys also was what the key thing that's also happening in Hex right now is the Hex and ETH pair. Like if you look at the liquidity on that pair, look at how there's about there's about almost 1,400 Ethereum in there. I think it's like 2.3 million or almost 3 million bucks, somewhere in that general range of Ethereum. And with that most recent price run up, all of that Ethereum is now acting as support as well now, because that's behind price. So if you get over this ledge right here on the USDC pair, on the ETH pair, there's just not that much liquidity out there, And so
it flies from there.
it's an opportunity for, if the sentiment really does change, and the whales in the system are ready to take the price higher, the way they would do that is by printing some sort of a chart that looks something like I had up before, where it just goes vertical, basically.
You know what's amazing about all these liquidities that you just showed? People should be able to see that too. Is like they're all about at the same zone in their respective chart. In other words, and again, back to bounded liquidity and Hart's law, in a way, if one pair goes crazy, all of them are going to follow. In other words, if somebody comes in, let's say on the Hex USDC price, and then grab that liquidity that Axis was talking about, by just grabbing that, just with the automatic actions of all the liquidities of market sell and buy, just to provide that liquidity to the USDC, the Hex Hedron might start to move automatically. And the Hex ETH also automatically moves, because the automatic liquidity that you're seeing here is the overall liquidity. Because there's a liquidity pair that kind of shows everything. When you go in here, I don't know if you just type in just Hex, it shows you the overall liquidity with all the pairs. Because sometimes if you move a certain amount of money,
this is the total TVL.
Exactly, because when you move a certain amount of liquidity, Uniswap will automatically route you. So say, you might have to use this one first and then go to that one, just to make sure what you're trying to do is.
Well, the point is that if there's let's say there's a huge injection of USDC on that pair, and you take away all that hex, that makes hex worth more in Ethereum terms because Ethereum also trades against USDC. And so what I want to show you guys here is like what's been going on. By the way, guys, I try not to shill too much, but like I do all this analysis like on a daily for my group members and on my channel and stuff. So if you guys do like this stuff and you want to see more of this on a regular basis, like I'm doing this every single day. So here on this chart, this is basically showing you that we've been in like a 500-day squeeze of liquidity, and we just recently popped the head above, and now the total liquidity across all pairs is now broken out and just bull flagging. So this is like the most bullish thing you could ask for as far as from liquidity.
Wow. And what kind of a channel would you say that Hedron's in right now?
I think it's mimicking kind of like Hex in a sense where I can see it goes back to that same zone of that previous long-term support. And this I've actually zoom out a little bit. I can see it go to that zone. Yeah, where you got that blue line, which will be the top of the channel. The first blue line that you have.
This one?
Yeah. I see it to come there in the coming, probably next week. People don't realize when Hex start to run, you could be literally like, we could be sitting here next week and then it's 5 cents.
Yeah, sorry to block this. I just want to put up Access Alive's channel right there, accessalive.com. Go check out more of this on his site.
Appreciate it. Thank you. So right now, Hedron price is testing the midline of this new trend that it started, right? And you can consolidate around here for a while because what this is the 0.618 Fib retreat. Let me go ahead and just say that yes, that blue line that Kareem just pointed out is key. That's a linear Fibonacci retracement level, so that would be like a key level to watch. You're looking for potentially like a 17 to 18% move higher to get to the top of that, basically to meet this level here, where this top of this trend here that you kind of had here, but up here where it also meets the 0.236. So how do we get that number? I'm gonna go delete all this crap out so you can see clearly and get rid of this.
Did you guys know that if you say Hedron 3 times, Sloth appears? like freaking Beetlejuice.
That's funny. So this is like a linear. This is a linear channel. Sorry, Fibonacci retracement. So that's where I got that. And it's funny because look at how this perfectly was a resistance here back in November, and then the next level, perfect resistance there. So this chart is playing out perfectly mathematically. So on the upside, you can expect similar price action, right? And each level will act as a certain level of support resistance for the asset. Whether or not it becomes support or resistance, I'll leave that for you to decide. But the ultimate thing here is that on the linear, that's your first target, is that it's basically the 222 level. And then if I switch this down to logarithmic, so you just played with the 0.236, and now you went up and you tested the 382. Maybe we need to play with that for a few days, and then go up to the 50% retracement. And notice how this is the lows here.
Yeah, and actually, it's funny. Just for fun, right? Axis, can you overlay this chart with the Hex chart? Because I really want to drill this in people's head. It's like it looks like, oh my god, it's far away, and then it's like, no, if Hex gets here, this gets here too. It just goes together.
I can do it a couple different ways. So one way, I will do an overlap chart, but first I want to show you guys like what it's when you compare them together on a cross asset chart, because this is really the one that tells me the most.
He says, "Buckle up, we about to be full throttle." That'd be a good bar in a song.
It feels like it. I don't think Hex is going to perform like the rest of the market. I think the reason why I think that is because when you look at correlations against Bitcoin and Ethereum on like a yearly, you can see here. Let me zoom this up. So if you've never seen a correlations matrix before, basically it's just comparing Bitcoin to Ethereum, Bitcoin to Hex. You can see Hex compared to ETH, Hex compared to Bitcoin. It's like one of these cross graphs. Anyways, the point is that 89% of the time over the last year, Ethereum does the same thing as Bitcoin as far as like movements, which direction it's going to move and how hard it moves. 80% of the time, 89% of the time, ETH and Bitcoin are doing the same thing. Hex, on the other hand, was only doing the same thing as Bitcoin 55% of the time. So it's not quite as much. It was still positively correlated, but not quite as much over the last year. And then for ETH, it was even slightly more positively correlated with a 63% correlation. But now check this out.
Which
Like
is
switch to the 30-day, look what happened over the last 30 days. Hex is completely decorrelating away from what the larger market wants to do, which means it's going to start to beat to its own drum, and it's not going to listen to the larger market anymore. And the reason why that's possible is because the liquidity setup allows a few participants with big bags to decide what they want to do with the chart.
Yep. And what that also means, which is bullish, is again, the correlation could just simply means, hey, you decide to go 5-10%, we decide to go 50-80%. So it's just meaning like it's just like Axel just perfectly said, do his own thing and just push higher.
Yep.
Yeah.
So this chart
Freddie's,
is
oh, sorry. Tipo is saying if you look at ETH's first cycle versus Hex first cycle, very closely aligned. ETH at this point came back down to retest, then took off.
Yeah, I'll show you a cool chart, and that compares Ethereum and Hex in a kind of a new light. This is Ethereum in black and Hex in pink, and they're on a logarithmic growth curve, the rainbow channel. But this rainbow channel is Bitcoin's logarithmic growth curve overlaid onto these two assets. So what I did was just added Hex in here in pink, but you can see that the first bottom on ETH was around that same general region as where Hex is bottoming now. And yeah, so then you can kind of see over the next year and a half, like what kind of sideways action we might have. However, because Hex overperforms to the upside and to the downside on that first move, it makes me think that it's going to perform well to the upside again as well. And then maybe it trades more in these like yellow and orangish bands rather than getting all the way
like
back
it did
down.
in the beginning. See the beginning of the
Yeah.
like kind of
See how
pop.
See how Ethereum crashed harder against it before it got its recovery rally, whereas Hex made huge spikes up like that, and then for the big payday and stuff like that. Well, that was on a fundamental event and big payday. Well, why wouldn't Hex do that again on a fundamental event of a documentary launch or Pulse Chain and D3 or whatever the hell, any kind of good news that comes out, you're going to see this familiar price performance in this asset, I believe, and a lot of that's again due to the low liquidity.
Yes, I agree.
Okay, so back to Hedron. So this is Hedron versus Hex, and what I want for you first to notice is, if you don't understand how cross pairs work, this is measuring what a Hedron's worth in dollars versus what a Hex is worth in dollars, and crossing them, so that how many Hedrons can I get for my Hex today? How many Hexes can I get for my Hedrons tomorrow? That's basically what this chart's saying. So the first thing I want to do is zoom way out and just show you guys where this chart's aiming at. It's aiming way up here. Like this is where both assets want to trend, is together they both want to. Hedron is effectively pulling Hex up the chart, and with all of its mechanisms that's built into the icosahedron protocol by forcing people to lock up Hex stakes 5555 to get the max return on the other assets. And so what that's doing is making Hex much more scarce. But what it's doing to the Hedron price right now is, when Hedron first was born, it had like a nice little top here, and on our big run up, our 30x run up off the lows over last summer and fall, it actually went and broke the all-time high against Hex and then made a new high, which meant that Hex had to now overperform back to try to catch up to the gains that Hedron had made over it. Well, now you notice that we've consolidated Hedron price here for some time. This is because Hex is running so hard right now, and Hedron kind of was a lagger now for many months here. You can see since basically, I think it was end of October, early November, Hedron had topped, and so Hex had time to base out, and now it's been going up. And so the reason why Hedron hasn't quite, even though Hedron's going up in USDC terms, Hex is still outperforming. So look at, you got a 80% move here off that low on Hedron US against the dollar, but against Hex, you've basically went sideways. See what the percentage is.
Which is already which is a good feat in terms of like just keeping up with Big Daddy, pretty much.
It's amazing.
The same way back in the day when Ethereum was running really hard, if Hex Heath can just hang in there, it just takes you on the ride. Because again, bonding liquidity. So, and that's really the key takeaway when we tell people like that Hedron track in USD, how quickly it can get there if the Hex Hedron can just keep up with it, because Hex gonna keep moving. And then if
now remember that this OA wall is sitting right here. So like if Hex really overperforms, well, what does that do to Hedron price against Hex? It pushes it down into the wall. Well, then what happens if you if Hex price triples, then those guys that are printing millions of Hex every day can just convert it with no slippage into Hedron here, and then watch their gains as it tries to catch
Oh
up.
yeah, no brainer.
Hedron's in the back seat right now.
Oh, and then fun facts, right? Okay, me right here. It's like if it keeps pumping, the less we sell because we don't need it, and it just keeps going up. Who sells when the bag is looking juicy and moving up? Does this make sense? So it makes perfect sense in terms of just moving with the flow, and anything that's related to Hex on the deeper fundamental terms, like T-share style, like Hedron has, is gonna do very, very well.
This looks like this
Hex
to me.
going nuts.
This zone right here, this flat zone. Gosh, I wish this flat zone right here is like reminding me of this zone right here. So yeah, maybe you get that next dip down on the next Hex pump up to 5 cents, and then that's last call, and then you start to build structure like this. And you
Double
really start to
bottom,
rip
and then
out of
let's
here.
go.
And then you go pause at the all-time high for some time, test this midline, and then start to build structure going into the summer. One potential outcome.
Yeah,
Because Hedron's an even lighter chart than Hex, so they both act
T-share
as rocket fuel for each other.
Because another cool fundamental aspect is the T-share is going to continue to do its thing, and then now with the price rising, the cost of the T-share accelerating again. T-share acceleration really kicks in, which then makes you more left behind and makes Hedron disinflationary, which means those who didn't get their T-share are going to be able to now print less and less and less. And then if you got less free Hedron, aka you're the person providing that inflation, you're less and less relevant, which then allows the price to accelerate even faster and faster. That's why it's so fascinating. Everything is connected.
I'm probably missing some comments in the chat. If you see
I,
any,
I
feel
had
free to.
Well, I was going to mention, T-Bird says, I reckon RH is going to be methodical with his announcements, space them out and fuel the FOMO. He'll want a max pump on V3 and then multiple FOMO updates before the final mainnet announcement. I can see that happening for sure. I was going to ask, does it look like ICOSA is a lagging indicator following the Hedron price? Or where would you put ICOSA in this whole ecosystem?
So ICOSA is actually the leader right now. It actually led out of that bottom. It did 228% in 34 days. So actually, ICOSA kind of led the charge in a lot of ways. It's kind of interesting. This was surprising to me as this occurred because I thought actually that this was creating a bearish pattern. But then I went and so originally I was like, okay, this is a rising wedge. This is typically bearish and they typically break down. And then I remembered that this is a low liquidity asset tied to Hex, which was tied to the T-share. And so then I went back and I remembered this pattern, and when I remember it from was pre-big payday. So if you look at that, go back to the 4-hour chart on that. Got to really zoom back. You'll see the same technical pattern setup where it goes into this like flat, rising triangular pattern here, like this. And then it broke nastily. It did a 3x, I think, all the way up to 1.5 cents.
Yeah,
So,
but also fundamentally, going back to the fundamental, right? About what is this thing, this ICOSA, for example. It's a leading indicator because fundamentally, what is it that it holds? It's the value indirectly of what the hex stakes are going to be in the future. So since we're switching, into the green, into the bull cycle, so to speak, bull run, not bull market, bull run at least, somebody could front run by saying, well, this thing is about to become more valuable because the underlying asset that this thing represents is accelerating its upper value as well. Does that make sense? So people are just front running it because they know that fundamentally what it represents, it's something else that we already know and that we also know and believe that it's going to go much higher. Yep. So people are just catching that early. So that's what's happening. The same way on the opposite side, they know that we're on the negative side. Let's say we're still on the bear cycle on the hex side, then this would actually accelerate to the downside because people would think it's getting less and less valuable. So the fundamentals are always there. They're always there.
Check this shit out. Okay. Actually, I'll do the ICOSA one first. What's the price right now of ICOSA? It says 78 cents. So this is a website made by Crypto Sloth. He basically made a bunch of calculators so you can figure out where fair value is.
Yeah, these are sick.
So if currently, let's say ICOSA is 77 cents and the T-share price is 26,000 hex per T-share, currently, based on the ceiling price of the arbitrage opportunity of selling HSIs back to the contract, the ceiling price is at $28 per ICOSA. So right now, let's see here. That's because Hex has moved up. A few days ago, it wasn't this high. Let me just make sure that my math is right here.
What is a ceiling price? What does that mean?
This is crazy to me, Sloth. Please tell me that this isn't true, because this is so crazy to me that $28 is the
He
fair
says,
value.
"Oh, hey, I've seen that site." And just like if you say Hedron 3 times, Sloth appears. If you say freedom 3 times, heartbeat appears. So if you just say freedom, 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 heartbeat just appears wherever you're at. What's up, heartbeat?
I don't know if you want to. Maybe he wants to come in and talk about it.
Yeah, I'll throw him the link for sure. If we're lucky, it'll be during his 23 minutes of freedom a day that he has outside of school.
Right. All right, I shot him the link too.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, like that. Just to think about that, at $2.80, it's still 90% off its ceiling price. Basically on the arbitrage opportunity. And then if I go out to the Hedron one's even crazier. So if Hedron prices, I think it was 5 zeros and 187.
He says hex price you have to put in.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know if I'm not doing this right or I used the wrong number.
Sloth says he's gonna grab some water and hang out. He goes hard with that hydration.
All right, I think I figured out what I was calculating. Okay, so for Hedron, check this out. 90% off is 5 zeros and a 4.8. That's a 90% off the ceiling price.
I'm gonna do this real quick so
just so you guys know, on Hedron, we've never even got above 10% of the ceiling price for Hedron. That means that even at the peaks here on price, we've never even came close to like the highest valuation that could occur before you'd start to see like an obvious top. So we've only gotten, and I think a lot of that is attributed to the 10x minting bonuses. So if people were only minting at a 1x rate, then so over time, as those minting bonuses disappear, like the discount's going to disappear basically. And the thing is,
it's actually it's actually 11x, because you get 10x plus the regular 1x, so it's actually 11. But yeah, once those people, because again, unless you stake long term, but all those short term and all those people who emergency end stake or got flushed out, once they're no longer relevant, it's gonna pump even harder and harder and harder, because they become, again, that disinflationary action once again, as the bonus eliminates itself, as the people ending those stakes that used to have bonuses are no longer having the bonus.
Yeah.
Plus the acceleration of the share rate, all those things are mini pumpamentals. As Hex price goes up too, making a cost of a T-share more expensive, which
and raising the ceiling price as well.
Exactly.
So, and the other thing too is, here's some secret sauce for you guys. Think of it like this: if the price of Hex gets to $5, $6, $7 in the next bull cycle, people are gonna be people that have like really, really long-term stakes that are out like 10 to 15 years are gonna be faced with this decision of, do I want to take out millions of dollars now in EES, and lose my 10x minting bonuses on my Hedron, or do I want to keep them in? And there's going to be a lot of those 10x minting bonuses that are going to get murdered when they take out in the top of the next bull run on an EES. Yeah, they'll get mad returns, but they're going to be missing.
I can tell you right now, it ain't happening. I ain't doing it. I'll be sitting there to collect for those people. You're 7.
Yeah. Dude, that's insane. Yeah, how high does ICOSA got to go before people start unwrapping the whatsas?
Because you can, buddy. I don't know.
But you can sell those, right? So part of me is like me and Randy Hilarski were saying, don't ever unwrap your whatsa. It's a balloon filling with money for eternity. Yeah. Like, just sell that thing on OpenSea. So
max regret.
The cool thing people need to constantly remember is, again, the higher the price go, typically, especially those who got to a point where, if they created wealth, right? the less they need to sell. I've said it many times, which
Yeah,
then becomes even more disinflationary, because let's say you're selling X amount of units to pay Y amount of bills, but then the price do 10x. Then that means you only need to sell a tenth of the unit you were thinking about selling just to take care of whatever you wanted to take care of. And let's say you don't have to take care of
paradox.
it. Exactly. So why would you sell the winners? You know what I mean? What is the saying? Like, you let the winner run. So this is where it's like, once we really get to that bull cycle, especially on Pulse Chain, with fluidity, fast execution, lower fees, oh my goodness, it's gonna be
So just to like bring that point home originally, that which was, is ICOSA the leading indicator? Yes, it was the first one out, and yes, it's the furthest along to getting to its ceiling price. So at current Hex price, $1.14 is actually the ceiling price. And it's funny because it lines up directly with like this key level here, which was where we had that breakout and then breakdown and then failed continuation rally, based on a 3.15 cent Hex basically. And so, but that also lines up with the 0.786 retracement level. So, this trend can continue up till here, and if Hex stays the same price, that you might see some sort of retracement at that level. But ICOSA only comes into existence because Hedron gets burned. So that's the key factor here. And what that means is that Hedron gets rarer. Hedron price can then go up at a more rapid rate, which can then pull Hex price up with it, because eventually because of all the liquidity being tied together, that they'll begin to play this game of like back and forth of like, first Hedron will be overvalued, then Hex will regain value, then Hedron will be overvalued, and then Hex will regain value, and then this trend should effectively go forever in this giant sine wave.
And fun fact, where have we seen this shape before? It's so funny. What you talk about, like, it's like a massive, like, inverse head and shoulder. Once it pops out of that, it just...
Yep. If this is your level, getting up here, it doesn't matter how long it takes. Bam, bam.
Bam, there you go.
By the way, the ceiling price so I just showed you guys that the ceiling price for ICOSA is here right now. But right now, let's see where I had it up before. 0.031.
We've got Sloth here, so he can tell you that the secret buttons and the hidden, like he can tell you where to find the hidden princess and the extra coins on this website.
Yeah.
Welcome in, brother.
Hey,
Welcome.
good to see you guys. How's it going?
Good.
Doing
Putting
good.
up the ceiling price.
Yeah. The day we break those highs on Hedron, it's gonna be a good day. Whenever that happens.
There it is. That's your level. So right now at current Hex price, ceiling price is up there. Just to give you guys a percentage on that, based on where we're at now, about a 25%, 2,500% move.
Nice 25x.
We've seen that before, by the way. Right here, we did 2,800%. So easy money.
Easy.
No problem. It's amazing to me how all the charts are all bullish and they all follow a similar pattern. And then it's just like, I can't wait, because once Hex gets to where it needs to go, everything just automatically get that. Like, I can tell you right now, I won't be surprised when everything's just up hundreds of percent almost at the same time, because to me it just makes sense.
Yeah,
it's all the liquidity connected, and they intertwine each other, or the way those contracts were created. That's where the linking value. This is why the T-share is the most powerful thing, because they created their value to be intertwined between each other. So this is why it's like we either win together or we die together. Does that make sense?
Yeah. It's like, what's that saying? I'd rather hold this thing to zero than watch it, moon forever, basically. The potential's there for it to do these things, and we're here trying to show people why it has that potential. Yep. Let's see.
Did you have any comments on that big dolphin stake that went the other day? Did it go for 10 grand then, or like, does anybody know? Did anyone follow up on
it went
that?
for 109, basically 110 billion Hedron. And so,
I'm gonna check price on that quick.
Yeah.
Get me up to speed. What happened?
Okay, you got to tell them.
Yeah, so there was 2 days ago, there was about a $1,200 T-share, 1,200 T-share stake that was up for auction on, and there was about 100. It was like 109,9999 all the way, but it was basically 110 billion. Hedron was the amount that won the auction, and I still think that went for like a solid. I can't remember what the exact discount is off the top of my head. I think it was like a $50,000.
Pretty sure the Hex stake was worth 280 grand, and so
Yeah.
then he got $73,000 off, basically.
Off T-shirts, yeah.
Bastard.
Yeah, so like if you, that's a whole other ecosystem that like most of the Hexicans have no idea, and there's people that are smart that are sniping those 15-year, 10-year stakes with multipliers just off the market for huge discounts. And like one of the most awesomest tools that Sloth built on this website is the good HSI's deals, which is basically going to tell you if you click these are upcoming stakes that are on the auctions that you could basically, what you do is you take the Hedron that you have, you can go market buy it, you can get it from your mints, and you burn that Hedron and you try to win these auctions for these stakes with Hex t-shirts in them. And so what this calculator does is it'll show you the delta between if it's a good deal or a bad deal.
Wow,
like this one's 50.
You don't even have to do the math. The calculator does it for you. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so like this one's like $58 off.
Yeah, it'll tell you the deal relative
It's
to
$123 off,
and like the cost if you made the stake today.
This one's like $3,000.
Then you got to win the auction, right? Somebody can rise the bid on you last minute.
It's the current real-time deal, so if it changes as new people make a deal. But every time you click the button, it'll update the numbers, and then you have the address right there for the person who made the most recent bid, so you can see like who you're bidding against too.
Nice.
Yeah, so it's just a little tool to help you out because I had like this whole spreadsheet and you had to like input everything, and I was like, that's kind of annoying. Let's see if I can just pull all the info from the blockchain.
This is also, for those who aren't realizing this on their own, this is also like one of the biggest pumpamentals for Hedron prices, because it doesn't necessarily mean that somebody has to bid with more Hedron to get the delta back to net zero. It just means that Hedron price has to rise.
Yeah.
Also create a more, basically to reduce all the arbitrage opportunities.
Yeah.
Yes, because everything is connected to the price. It's like I tell people, would you rather buy a t-shirt under $1,000 right now, or when it's back above, $5K, 8K, 10K? You know what I mean? Because
like this stake here is $3,500 off. Crazy.
What does Benny Blanco mean when he says the person who got $100,000 discount by buying the stake with Hedron?
I think he's just talking about like the deal relative to the value of the ICOSA that he bid with versus like the cost it would make the stake if he like put in USD and bought Hex off the market to make the stake. So you got like, I think it was closer to like $80,000 to $100,000 discount on t-shirts, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah. And who knows, maybe that Hedron even had a bonus multiplier to that too.
Yeah, I don't remember if it did.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Probably
some 5x or 8x or whatever bonus in there.
Yeah. Alan Fitzman says, don't forget Alex said there's still something up his sleeve for his ecosystem. Closed loop positive feedback to Hex. Whoever's blind to this will miss out on perpetual gains. And I noticed that Sloth doesn't have his camera on because we could probably get him to Twitch or wink some of that information to us, that secret sauce they're working on.
Oh man.
Right? Yeah. Oh, Alan also said earlier that this is so good he's moist. So
I can't wait to
got that going on.
That's good.
I guess I kind of wanted to talk to you guys just quickly about there's been a new Hex airdrop that's tied to t-shirts as well. It's called Communist. And I just want to bring up the price chart quick to show you guys kind of what's been going on with this chart.
I claim my free money. Thank you.
More free money for Hex stakers. Thank you, Kodiak. Check this shit out. This thing has been trading in like a 2 to 4x range, mainly, and it just actually recently broke out of a falling wedge, which is a bullish pattern that typically breaks out to the upside. So the confirmation candle was this sell-off that completely inverted on a fat wick. Somebody came in with a few $1,000, and oh yeah, FYI, there's almost 100 grand of USDC sitting in this pool. So that's actually pretty darn good for something that just launched for free. Like this thing didn't rug or anything. It's just been kind of slight chugging sideways. And so this move off this level was, it was like a 60% move to the wick high. And so basically I said, as long as this trend can hold on this dotted line where the second exclamation point is, that you're looking for more upside.
Yeah, it's in this accumulation pattern, just because again, this is like I mean, for lack of a better term, I have to kind of compare the Hedron a little bit. But it's like it's more hardcore. I read a little bit about the game theory, which is kind of cute. I like it in a sense where it's like you only get the advance once, which is kind of a pumpamental, meaning you sell it up to 25%. And then after that, you don't get nothing until the end of the stake. So that's kind of pretty hardcore. So I was like, oh, a little bit different. So I think I watched the Crypto Coffee's video. He kind of explained because he went over the site stuff. So, but nonetheless, again, free money, good for execute.
Is there a time limit on claiming the communities coin?
No time limit. But what it is that you can only claim the advance up to 25%. So I'm gonna give you an example. If your stake is 50% completion right now, the only thing you'll get is the 25%, and then you'll get the other 75% at the end of the stake. If your stake is 18%, then you'll get the whole 18%. But once you claim the advance, let's say you do it at 5%, you'll get the 5%, and then you get nothing until the end of the stake. So it's like it's hardcore in that sense where there's no little drips over time. It's like once you claim, this is it. And once you claim too, you can either stake it right away, or you claim it and it hits your wallet. Once it hits your wallet, you can no longer stake it. So this it's just more like hardcore stuff. And then it's literally also the only liquidity is just the coin being claimed. There's no OA, there's no benevolent, nothing. It's just that. But I will say one of the fundamentals that I like is it literally teaches you how to be the best staker. Seriously, like it's almost like the guy listened to everything I've been saying and put in a thing. Because when you end the stake, and if you restake, and then you do t-shirt preservation, and you only take what you need, restake the rest or whatever, you get an extra bonus for that. So it's like it's pretty. The game theory is pretty good. But nonetheless, I love free money, and it's something to reinforce and reward the stakers, the long term. Those were real stakers. You know what I mean?
So we had a request here. I don't know if you guys are cool with this. We'll pull up the Hex Bitcoin chart and then throw on the
DMI.
The DMI.
Yeah, my favorite. Oh, and fun fact, Hex on ETH is pumping too.
Yeah, I saw that, dude.
We gave all the free money over there. Money printers everywhere.
I got an opinion about that thing, and it's probably not a very popular opinion. That I think that there could be legs on that asset.
Are you talking about the communities?
No, on Hex on other chains. It doesn't. I forget
Okay.
the name of it. It doesn't matter. Anytime you see Hex on a chain, the underlying code's like there. So like I feel like that somebody's gonna want to accumulate it at a certain price.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, because Hex is Hex, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
this is Hex priced in Satoshis, right? This is Hex BTC, and just we are. I don't want to, obviously get the FOMO pants on because like this is basically saying that we're targeting 25,000 sats, which
you should.
Which is basically like which is basically like 590. Yeah.
Because once I think this is the reason why the viewer asked that, because he probably followed me for a while. But like if you look at the DMI, I'm telling you, it looks juicy, especially on the Hex USDC. Because when you look at it on the weekly, it's about to do what it miraculously crossed, and you get to see how we have so much room to run. It's not even funny. And then the RSI too on the weekly, it looks beautiful. Reset, ready to run. And when you combine the two, it's like sparkles. It should be happening by Valentine's Day. I think we have like about, because I wait for the cross then to usually post. So but it's very close. Very, very close.
Damn. All right, so what numbers do you like? Do you want to do the daily chart or the weekly?
Oh, let's start with Hex, can you do us a favor? Can you remove our face because we can't see the end?
The bottom. There you go.
Yes. So this is weekly, right?
Yep, this is weekly. So let's say
perfect.
Let's just pull this up.
So for those who are kind of new, so it just gets to show you how like you see all this acceleration in price so far, but DMI is like still very low. In other words, it's like the liquidity is so low that just with a little bit of money, the price go up 40%. We haven't even really started to pump yet. It's literally just bottom. It started to turn. once it crosses, meaning once the green is above the red, you know, because my colors are different, but looking at axis here, green here means
I just
buy.
basically have green is buy and red is sell. I switch to a daily here. I want to see if I can figure out like a time frame that makes sense.
Usually it's 14-14. That's what you got. 14-14 is the parameters. Those are the ones. So on the daily, it already crossed, which is good. Clearly, we're pumping. But DMI, the longer the time frame, the more deadly it is, the more real it is.
That's
so
good.
That's
then.
why.
Let's do a weekly then. That makes more sense.
Yeah. So it is pumping because you can see the little like V bottom, but it just goes to show that it hasn't even. When people, oh my God, it's gonna retrace. It's like we haven't even really started.
We haven't even started the pump yet, but on the chart, like let me show you guys the chart. Like it's pumped on the chart. Look at this.
Yeah.
Like 89%.
This is why I think it's gonna
66% move, and the DMI is not even showing any sign of life yet. Really, it just showed that you're bottomed basically.
We're not even showing life just yet.
We've actually made new lows, which means that this is going to be extra violent now.
Yep, because the selling was real near that bottom when that guys or whoever those guys were dumping those hundreds of millions of hex.
Yeah,
that's where DMI was catching that to let you know like. It's bullish that the price is not really moving off of that low, although millions and millions of hex are being sold.
Yep.
And this is where that bullish diversion was being created because we were kind of going sideways on price, but selling was accelerating. And this is how you calculate the bullish diversion.
Yep, sir. Pretty nice, man. This chart's like obviously just from a technicals and the price action. These are the nastiest, most biggest green candles that have come off since. I would say that these are more forceful than anything that happened off that first low. You might have not have had as good of a candle since back at PulseX, like when that PulseX.
And actually, do me a favor. Can you put up the RSI too, like on the weekly?
Yeah.
Because it's a cool little line too when you get at the both and you get to see why I also tell people like
damn.
Yeah, look at that.
So this is the moving average.
Yeah. And then if you were to kind of do like you know how you did that descending line, if you were to draw a line, you'll get to see how like it broke out. Is this weekly or daily?
Weekly.
Weekly, perfect. So you get to see,
you can see
how
that
like
it's about to break out.
Yeah, and then from there, it's like we have so much great room to it because it's already above that yellow line, which shows you that the momentum
is above the moving average. Yeah. And this goes all the way back to this low. Damn, this low here, dude, is from the PulseX sack phase, or Pulse Chain sack phase, summer of 21, July. That's how long this trend has been in play. And then everything, and I've been kind of saying this for a while, that everything after basically 7-cent hex, the announcement of Pulse Chain and all that FOMO that caused the price to go from 7 cents all the way up to 56 cents, that was all extra. That was just like, RH doing everybody a favor, basically. Looking back at it.
And the key thing also about RSI that I like to point out is if you can draw like a horizontal line at the 40, because RSI, especially on the weekly, it starts to be good. We get off like quite a bear territory once we go above 40, and you get to see where we are now. It's literally slightly, we just crossed that 40 line.
Yeah, so there's your 40. Let me switch the color to white.
If you were to make it bigger, people can see how it's like, whoa. And then from here, you can see even from the previous, that's when it starts to run and then enter the overbought. And then once we end there for a while, oh man, it's like lights out. You know what I mean? So again, we are extremely early. So do not let this, I mean, it's great with pumped, but the real pump hasn't even started yet.
Yep.
That's the moral of the story.
So check this out. Man, that looks good.
I had a couple of questions I've noticed. First of all, obviously, if we get a pulse chain drop, then all bets are off on a lot of this stuff, right? Like
as far as upside,
support,
yeah, I mean,
resistance, just
Pulse
like
chain, yeah.
insane volatility of people trying to front run the drop of the new coins, all that other stuff, right?
100%.
Because
I think I agree with you.
Is there anything on a chart
because
that
there's a high chance.
would remind us or give us an idea of what something like that does besides big payday?
I think it's gonna run in an insane way where, because when you say pulse chain drop, right? Let's unpack that for a second. Chances are from V3 to actual drop, like that's my speculation, right? There could be a 1 week to 2 weeks interval. And that low liquidity is still there, which means just the leading up to it and knowing how genius Richard is, the way he's gonna probably drop things bit by bit. It's like we could easily have another 200-300% run before even pulse chain even launch. Because again, if you want to get your copy, if you want to make sure you don't get trapped in the liquidity or harvest by the bot, what are you going to do? You're going to remove your liquidity, which then means it's going to get shorter and shorter and shorter. Plus, you got the people that want to do the buy, the rumor, sell, the news. They're just going to buy just to get the copy. So
Yeah.
all of these actions is bullish.
Yeah.
Because you just
So this
removing
was your
coins. Either you exactly.
Yeah, this was your fundamental event that basically led up to that pulse chain pump from 10 to 20 cents.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you get a similar move here, this gets you all the way back up to that. It's 500 sats would be roughly a 4x, roughly.
Yes.
You're basically
16 to
4xing. You're basically going
16
back
cents,
to
16,
trade
20
that
cents.
like 16 to 20 cent range. Yep. And then
And how cool is that? You get a 16, 20 cents hex, then you get a copy, and after a couple of days, hopefully when the liquidity gets there, and then let's say it finds its sustainability and just becomes double or actual double. You know what I mean? Next thing you know, it's like you're back to a 40 cents hex. You know what I mean?
the other thing too to keep in mind is like when we finally do get these bottoms, like on this chart, these trends then last years.
Yes.
Like Hex is not going to not do that again. Like, so then, yeah, maybe you come back to
Continuation
retest the
pattern,
yellow
yep.
line, but it's going to be a continuation pattern because that's just the way this chart likes to go.
Up and to the right.
So then, yeah, you might come back, after the event, and then you get something like this out of there. You come back down and you test that level, right?
Yep. And then you get the Hedron, the ICOSA, all the things related to T-share just following that shape too.
And again, this is against Bitcoin, so
Yep.
it will actually be more vertical against Bitcoin because it's easy to multiply against Bitcoin because it's such a big asset. Bitcoin is, and Hex is so small.
Yeah.
And then
Same thing with Ethereum.
Bringing back to what you were saying before, Kareem, about how like as the number goes higher, the less you need to sell, right?
Yes.
And we're with Pulse Chain launch, even a little bit on Ethereum, we're going to be getting DeFi utility through like Aave forks and GMX forks, and so we're going to even have less of a need to sell some of these tokens because we're going to be able to collateralize them to be able to take loans. So all this stuff is kind of building momentum and amplifying each other. As we get the Pulse Chain launch and we get these cool other DeFi utilities added to our, able to plug in our tokens to these DeFi protocols.
Yep. Now you got all kinds of different liquidity pool, all kinds of different, collateralization that you can do. But again, just fair warning, people, please do not turn into DGen. Be very careful. Some of those places are literally designed to wipe you out and take your coins. So just be very careful. Scam wicks are a real thing. So that's just a little asterisk out there. But what he's saying is absolutely correct. I mean, it's going to get even more insane, which is why if you do proper risk management and you just take what you need, let the thing ride. Your life is set. Like, again, accumulate money printers. Don't worry about choosing this versus that. Get them all. Let them ride. Have fun. Show love everywhere. As long as it's core to the key value of what Hex stands for, the ecosystem, and you build something that have positive externalities. This is the reason why you only hear me talk about things that are like connected to Hex, like that, like Hedron. You know what I mean? I don't talk about like dark stuff. Just put it
I always
out
like to remind people that like that initial drop from the launch price down was 98% drop, and that our most current drop is like it went down as far as 96.6%. So if you can just assume that Richard always likes to say like, who do you think is going to get up the fastest and the hardest? And if you look at the similarities here, like again, like you can get massive upside, and even if it gets rejected off the all-time high or somewhere up in this range, you can still come back down from 50 cents and trade between 20 and 50 cents for a year and a half, but you'll just
Yep.
never get that sub 10-cent hex ever again. And that's kind of what has been my mantra this whole time is like, just don't lose your opportunity. Cause like, okay,
You should
when
screenshot that
Hex leaves
because
the
I think
2
it's
cent,
it's
3
gonna
cent, 4
happen
cent
most likely.
range, it's leaving it forever. And nobody on earth will ever get to buy it at that price again. Ever. And so like I'm more scared of the upside than I am downside.
That's true.
Does that make sense?
Another fun fact people don't understand is like at a higher level, I think what's his name? My good friend Crispy, he did that video about like top wallets, top dolphins, and also like top like sharks and whatever. Like my account's been moving up, which is amazing to watch because it's very difficult to do so at the higher level. And it's like those people who are left or really die hard, those coins are going to be locked forever. So it's like the acceleration of the price gets even faster and faster and faster to the point where, again, the faster it goes, the less we need to sell. So the faster it can go. That's kind of how the cool thing. I mean, literally, like, well, I was about to say it for later, but like, because my birthday is tomorrow, but like I'll be proud to report next week, Dream account by itself will officially cross 100 million hex.
Let's go, man. Congratulations. That's
Congratulations.
fucking
How about that? For all the haters, I'll wait for them. Oh, he sold, he this, and that. I just can't wait. I'll just screenshot.
Nice, man.
Send
Congrats. Happy birthday.
That's a hell of a birthday present.
it.
I'll just remember to like just come down and visit you, and I'll keep my present.
Yeah, come through. Yeah, Axis came to visit. Actually, Axis. That's why I'm right now. I'm on the rooftop right now.
I know. I saw it. It's dope, man.
Yeah,
By the way,
I
your
was
place
in
is
there,
awesome.
man. They stopped playing music. I was like, I didn't want to mess the quality of the show.
This would. I mean,
So I went outside.
you think this looks like something good? I mean, look, the original trend. Once we found a bottom in the beginning,
Yes.
you kept trend, and then when you tested it from the other side on big payday, and that actually was the wick high on the weekly.
Mm-hmm.
What if you get a
it's
similar thing again?
It's definitely plausible, and it also for two things. Even for the technical side, because when you start going back to the liquidity, is that you get those little roadblocks like 5 to 7 cents, but then once you cross 8, 9, there's basically nothing. So it's like the same way it quickly went down, it quickly can go back up. Look at big payday after the crazy run up, it went down a lot, but then it also quickly went back up. So
yeah,
it's like there's those zones from a technical standpoint, from a liquidity standpoint, and for the simple fact that there's a squeeze happening where market maker got you low enough to accumulate, to absorb all your millions of X, and then he's going to make you pay by bringing it way up there. Because you can look at this massive sideway action as just the distribution pattern, the Wyckoff accumulation pattern. Literally, can you pull up a Google search, please, and just Google this Wyckoff accumulation pattern? I want people to look at what it looks like. It's literally almost the same as what the chart is looking. The same way back in the day we were talking about the distribution pattern when we were at the top. Look at this. That's what it looks like to me. Because I look at fractal,
yeah.
I just
Let me
look at this.
copy this image over. We'll do it.
You put that next to that chart. You know what I mean? Obviously, it's like slightly with the lower low with the double bottom, but it looks like that. And once we get out of there, last resistance, 7, 8 cents, and then next thing you know, because the liquidity also, it moves as a function of a square. So the higher it goes, the faster it can go also. That's how a parabola do it. It does 5% move.
Yeah, we just, we had a little bit more overperformance to the downside, but generally the pattern played out.
Yeah, you had obviously macro, FTX, shit like that. But
look at that.
If those things, but that also tells you how hard it's gonna pump, because
look at this Wyckoff accumulation pattern has us getting right back to 12 cents.
Damn, that's a screenshot right here.
You got your next tweet.
Yeah.
Dang.
Yep.
Damn, so beautiful.
Yeah.
So the first AR zone, that's where the 7 cents hex is. You know what I mean? And then where the top is of that resistance, that's where we had that 12, 14 cents before we did the breakdown. So that's what I'm seeing. And if you look at most of those other charts, Hedron to some extent, ICOSA, they have some similarity of this.
Yeah.
So by March, like we're talking about, and then going back to, the potential Fed pivot and what's going on, interest rate and all that kind of stuff, we could be hitting that resistance zone and higher by March, end of March, possibly sooner. But let's just say, not to get people too formal, but this is the pattern that I'm seeing.
Hex overperforms both to the upside and the downside. Proof is in the pudding right here. This was an opportunity for whales to get rid of some sharks and double and like get twice as much just by letting them push the price down like an extra penny and a half.
Yep, the non-believers, get them out.
Hey, there's one more thing I wanted to point out on the chart with Bitcoin and the 4-year cycle, and that is every time you right around the halving or the halving of Bitcoin, you got these death wicks where the exchanges are margining. They're margining everyone out of their positions right before the run up, and you see this wick, this dirty wick, go down really nasty right before each one of those run ups. If you
Historical
put it on
Bitcoin halvings, we're gonna do it. Oh wait, there's probably a Bitcoin halving chart, isn't there?
Yeah. But yeah, I've always noticed that giant wick down where the exchanges are liquidating anyone at all that's margined.
Here we go.
Right before the crazy run up.
Right here.
To do that, to reset.
Yeah. Well, no, you can. If you go to the candles, you'll see one crazy wick that goes almost down to the previous bottom of the bear market and just wipes everyone out before they take off again for the next bull run.
Do you remember?
It's crazy.
Yep.
You remember what the date was back here? Are you talking back in 2015? Because I remember that.
Yeah. There's one on 2015, and then there's one on 17 where you see they just went that one right there.
This one.
And then, either that one or that's the one right there. They kind of like shake everyone out before they do their final blow off.
Okay. Yeah, this would have been. They're typically in May, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this one's going to be the end of 23, beginning of 24.
Yep, it's May 24th, I think. Let me see. Bitcoin halving. Someone's getting rang.
Yeah, because remember, their goal is
Thursday, April 25th.
Yeah, their goal is always to trap liquidity. So, and this goes back to it's a trading thing I learned from a trader from London, but he just do more like informational. So I just listening just to hear the terminology. It's the principle of what market maker use for what's called vector candles. They push the price up very, very high, very, very, very fast to create those FOMO. But they also know and they want to sell into you that the price will never go back to those things. And they know there is some trap liquidity down there, people who went long and they think I'm never going to take any profits. It's never going to go back down there, or look at all my paper gains. And then once they're done doing the distribution pattern and they really want to push the price higher, they'll do one last death strike, again, what we call the scam wick.
Yeah.
I mean, like
scam wick,
better word, that's just is, traditional market have that too, but it's just a little bit harder to manipulate because it's bigger. The crypto, easy to do. You get that one last scam wick just because you want to get rid of those people who have started long that didn't take profit. And then you reaccumulate, and then now you're ready to let the price go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I was actually mining during this time frame. So it was May 11th of 20. So we were coming into the halving, and this happened where the COVID crash brought the price way down. I was mining, and I was shitting my pants. I'm like, holy shit! Like, we're not gonna get the 4-year cycle this time when this was going on. And then so this was.
And look
right
how perfectly low he went. He went exactly to trap the. Imagine the guy that opened the long at the bottom, 4K Bitcoin. He thought the price would never go back down there, right? Guess what? He got liquidated. Look at the bottom of the wick. It's almost exactly 39.50,
bro. 39.50.
The guy that opened the long before that big green candle, he thinks this will never happen. Look, he got liquidated, and the price ended up doing what he thought he was going to do.
This is why
trading's a
scammed them out and then gone.
And this is no mistake. They know exactly where those stops are.
July 9th, 2016 was another one.
Yeah, right there.
That one right there is the one I noticed.
It wicks you back to the beginning of the pump. Get
that one right there.
out.
Boom.
Look at that.
Yeah, right here.
That's
you got one before it, you got one after it, and then you got your rip.
Yep.
It's like a casino going around and wiping all the
38%.
chips off the table before all the hands get winning and all the roulette starts hitting. You know what I mean?
Can't let you make too much money, especially on leverage. But guess
Mhm.
what? When you buy and you don't do leverage, none of this shit matters.
Mhm.
They can scam with as much as they can. You're not liquidating me. My coins are not at risk. That's what people need to understand.
I love
This is
Hex,
why we
man.
say
It saves you
invest
from
more
all
than
this
you trade.
crap. I've
Yeah,
traded.
good to
I've been
see you,
right,
Blade.
dude. I've been right on freaking trades before in a leverage position. This is before I found Hex. It was actually a few months before Hex launched, and I was long. I was right about the call, but Coinbase was the driver of the market. Coinbase goes down at a high, and then
On
my
purpose too.
target doesn't get hit, and then all the other exchanges start selling off.
Yeah.
So then I
exactly.
flip short. I lose a little bit on the long, so I flip short. And as soon as I flip short, I flip just a little too late, and then Coinbase turns back on and it goes the other way. So it's like, are you fucking kidding me? This shit's rigged, and it's like
It's
an
solely
unfair video
rigged.
game. Yeah.
Hey, that was
Yeah.
my favorite saying back then. Maintenance, right?
Down
Every
for
time you log back
maintenance.
to your account, everything's wiped out. You say, "What happened to my position?" It's gone.
Holy
Eh,
cow.
it's gone.
28.
Well, hey, if you guys are still here, make sure you hit the like, subscribe, share this out. There's almost 2.5 hours of amazing alpha clips out here. So if you guys want to clip any of these segments and put them out, that would be great. I'll come to your house. I'll do your laundry. But clips are going to get out there and get eyes on this new community, right? Is there anything else you guys want to go over before we wrap this up?
Sloth, you got anything else you want to bring in?
No, I think you guys covered it pretty well. I got to go back and watch that first hour. But yeah, it was awesome.
Well, thanks for stopping in, man. Thank you very much. And of course,
Having me on.
Kareem and Axis, always a huge pleasure. Hex 647 was asking about Poly news. If there's any news about Poly you guys know of?
I just watched the chart the other day. I saw that it was here. I can do that for you. As far as like news about it, well, check this out. This is cool. So the Maximus.cash guys created a new app called Portfolio.maximus.cash. If you go in here, you can see they collect the data on all of the Maximus DAO tokens, including Water and Poly. And so if like you were to click on like Maximus for instance, it'll give you like what the premium to the discount is, basically based on its valuation against Hex, based on the backing value and the market price. So there's a lot of cool data on here. But in regards to Poly, let's see what the chart's doing. I think it's still on a discount. Let's see here.
It's in the accumulation
Yeah, so it's
pattern almost.
so basically Poly is, I think it's backed by 1.1 hedrons, if I'm not mistaken, right, Sloth?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The SA burned a bunch of hedron for Poly, and then burned all that Poly, so that now the Poly's backed by 1.1 hedron instead of 1.
Basically, Poly is on discount, 31% discount right now. And I mean, this could be a huge opportunity for somebody who wants, I think it's obviously you can convert it to Icosa yield, right? Is that how this works?
Wait, you can
Hedron and Icosa. At the end of this, how are
Yeah.
they going to distribute the backing value, I guess?
Yeah. All of the underlying hedron principal that's staked, and all of the Icosa, it will be evenly distributed across each Poly token. So each
Okay.
Poly token is entitled to an equal proportion of the principal and the yield of the pooled stake. So they'll get hedron and Icosa if you're a Poly holder.
Gotcha. So yeah, that's obviously like the 31% discount on the token right now, and that's not even including the backing value. That's 38% right here with backing value. So
yeah,
pretty good discount right now on Poly. I don't think many people are, because that's so far derived out of, Hedron's a derivative of Hex, and
yeah,
Poly's a derivative of Hedron. It gets so far away, but when the bull market comes back, these weird offshoot tokens are going to have such speculative rises. I think that these could be huge opportunities. I say the same thing in regards to Maximus DAO ecosystem. I'll pull that up too. I do this like little part of my chart sets on accessalive.com. I do like deep dives into this, and we track the discounted premium on all this stuff here. So these are all those tokenized stakes in the form of the Maximus DAO stakes, and so you can see that at the longer end of the yield curve here, you're getting bigger discounts because they're farther away from being able to realize them as Hex plus interest. But that's actually going to be a huge opportunity for a whale to come in on low liquidity and rip the price up and absorb a lot of the supply. Hopefully at these lows, you know, obviously whales are probably trying to accumulate at discount, but because it's so low liquidity, it doesn't take much to push the price back to 1-to-1 on the Hex pair anyway.
And here's some words of wisdom too. And people, before we get, they get too excited, because the bull market is definitely coming. Like, not just the bull run like we're now, but bull market. And the best analogy that I can give is just like the grayscale Bitcoin premium. In other words, when things are on discount, that's cool. Have your field day, blah, blah, blah. But then be very, very careful too, because in the bull market, things get to get euphoric and then very excited. Don't get caught with your pants down buying something that's way overvalued. And then you're going to realize that you should have, stick to the other things. So just as a word of caution, it's great to have all those tools. That's why, I'm grateful for Access. I'm grateful for, Crypto Sloth, or whoever is creating those tools to help you at least better understand what is it that you're buying and how to identify good opportunity. Because in other places, you don't even get the help. And that's why people get screwed. They buy something, they don't even understand what they're buying. And then by the time they figure out what's going on, it's already too late. So time to accumulate is always when nobody is paying attention, right? When it's on a discount. But also keep an eye on those things, because if they start going premium hard, be careful. Stick to what you know that's going to be also better for the long term. So that's just a word of advice.
Hey Kareem, what are you up to, and where can people follow you?
Primarily, on Twitter, people can find me there. Just my name, or just add your magic, or just either just type Kareem Majito, like it's showing also here on the screen. On Twitter, on IG as my name, they can find me as well. I'm excited to post, to be honest. Right now, I'm still in Miami. I want to do what I said on the previous virtual conference. I want to continue to travel the world and just do the onboarding, because I think that's what I excel the most at, on top of being streamed. So, and right now it's just being patient, waiting for Pulse Chain to launch, but in March, my goal is I'm trying to go to Vietnam. I'm trying to go to Asia, and then South America. So, Singapore possibly, but again, a lot of traveling coming up, and just really pushing the onboarding, Sticker at V2 coming up, my goal is just to talk to people and just spread the love from there. We're getting so much blessings, so much free money, free coin. Now it's just how to effectively deploy the money. So that's where I'm at right now.
That's awesome. Thanks. And Sloth, you've got that awesome site up that we've been playing with. How do people find that site and follow your stuff?
Yeah, man. Look into hedron.com. That's where you'll find all the tools and calculators that I built. It's going to be a continuous project for me. Putting more calculators up, putting some charts up. Me and Access in the background talk about cool ideas for charts that I could put up on there. So keep an eye out for that. Twitter, Sloth Crypto 3, and then Crypto Sloth on YouTube.
Awesome. And if we want you to show up to help us in person, we just say Hedron 3 times.
Say Hedron 3 times in a dark room, spinning in front of a mirror, and I'll pop up. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And Access.
It's good to see you, Hexray, man, after the meetup.
Yeah, it was really, really awesome to hang out with you and Rags and Freddie out there on the coast. It was a blast. And Access, you've just got your site up for 2 days now, you said?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Just launched it on Monday.
And that's
so that's basically
accesslive.com.
Accesslive.com. I'll be grinding and providing like a lot more content on there. So right now I'm working on the resource pages. That's all free utility for anybody that signs up for free membership. You can go in there and find technical analysis, pattern distribution. Putting some market reports in there, and then take a little deeper dive into like philosophy, and then also some interesting technology. So that it's gonna be pretty broad based in knowledge in there. Kind of like acts like a library for us to basically create this giant archive or reserve. And it'll be added to over the next decade. And then beyond that, I do for like paid members, there's chart sets that I do like twice a week and a blog post for free every early in the week. It'll be Mondays or Tuesdays roughly. So just be continuing to pump out the content, doing public streams at least once or twice a week, and then we do private video sessions on the website as well. So any of that stuff sounds like fun or interests you, then please feel free to go check out the website.
Awesome, awesome. And right now we just got a video on me and Kareem, but people are asking for this silly thing that I started called the awkward wave goodbye, where we play a little music and you give the camera the most awkward wave you can in your life. So if you guys want to turn on your cameras, you can join us. But I'm going to hit some music here, and we're just going to stare into the camera and do an awkward wave goodbye, as awkward as you can. Kareem, you ready?
You gotta show me. I don't know how to do
There you go.
that.
Yeah, turn it. There you go. You ready?
You ready? Oh my God,
You
devilish.
can't see my hand, but I'm waving.
This is crazy. Awesome. Remember, steak, date, and chill.
Bacon, bacon, still, dude.
Oh my God. Thanks for being here, guys.
Thanks, guys.
All right, so check this out. I want to be on Crypto Cabana tomorrow. We're going to be talking about the meetups and some stuff with Rack. So you can find me there. Find me on X-Ray Vision everywhere. Like, comment, subscribe, share, clip. And obviously, I've got the goods. I bring the really, really good guests on here to feed you guys. So thanks again to these guests. They're awesome. I appreciate them so much.
One last thing, if I
Go
may.
for it.
Please, please, please. Once again, Hexican, find it in your heart. I know it's tough, but those people that you really care about, that you know haven't listened, don't give up on them. You know the bull market is coming. Reach out. Remember, it's not about you. It's about the value you can bring to others. Find it in your heart. Reach out one more time. Spread the love. Hey, remember that thing I told you about Hex? Now might be a good time. Look at what's going on. And now it's gonna be easier as the price goes back up, because so don't forget. Reach out again.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, don't give up on people, because this stuff is hard, and sometimes it takes a while for people to come around to it. So awesome.
Thanks,
Well,
guys.
thanks
I really
again,
appreciate
guys.
it. Yep.
You guys are amazing. I couldn't do this without you. And love you, Visioneers. Love you, Hexicans. We'll see you next time. Bye.
See ya.